And as I try to make my way to the ordinary world, somehow I will survive. That's not how it goes. I don't remember all the lyrics of that. But I found the CD. What do you think of that? Look at this. I was rifling through CDs before this show. Remember Duran? Nehrude, if you're reading it in reverse. How y'all doing? Happy birthday. Merry Christmas to everybody. That image on screen kind of looks like a weird polycule family card, like a family Christmas card of a polycule. It's kind of fuzzy because it's got weird, I don't know, effects on top of it. Fuzzy effects. Fuzzy effects, that means dreams and love, basically. So, me and Jamie, we have a polycule. But it's all right. It's a Bays and Trad polycule. No worries. Nothing to worry about. Welcome, everybody. Like and share. We're going to have fun tonight. And as I try to make my way to the ordinary world, I will learn to survive. I'm messing up because I don't really know that song. I'm not trying to seriously sing right now. I got my feeler fresh. I got my feeler fresh feelers. Feeler fresh. 90s. Yes. That's it. It's just 90s theme, bro. That's it. You're trying to figure out what all's going on. That's all it is. Just 90s. We're going to be talking about the 90s. Why are we talking about that? Well, late 80s, early 90s. That is the Generation X indoctrination period. That's when they were coming of age. And nobody's really streaming yet about Gen X. Everybody's talking about boomers. I started, by the way, all the boomer jokes. I wrote essays that went viral many years ago, 10 years ago, making fun of boomers, talking about boomers, boomer jokes, us old shtick around here. And here's the thing. The boomer dominion, the jurisdiction of boomership, the exercise of the boomer keys, that's coming to an end soon. Now, I'm not trying to be macabre. I'm not trying to be dark. Just being honest with the facts. The fact. And the facts are, we're going to have new overlords. In the next 5 to 10 years, much love, peace to my boomers. Not hating on them. Y'all provided me a lot of comedic material. Help me rise to superstardom on the internet. But love y'all. Much love. The reins of leadership will soon be passing to a new group of people. They are known as Gen X. Gen X crew. The Gen X crew is taking over. Now, will they be benevolent overlords? Will they be apathetic, nihilistic, acidic, sassy pants overlords? Will they be worse than the boomers? Will they be way better? Will we get a reprieve? Will we get a reprieve of grace? Providential grace putting us under somewhat more temperate, benevolent rulers than the hard-fisted assiness of boomers that we've had for so long. That's what we're going to look at tonight. Now, how are we going to determine that? How will we predict? How are we going to figure it out? Well, we got 2 streams coming up. Tonight's stream, introduction stream, fun stream, joking around, sassing, talking back, laughing, singing. We're going to look at the elements of the 90s, the commercials of the 1990s, the MTV commercials, MTV generation. And we're going to see what they were indoctrinated with. Because the more I've watched these 90s commercials, I'm kind of blown away. there's a lot of programming in those 90s commercials, and being in the 90s, right? I was a teenager in the 90s. And I'm not exactly, see, people say, well, what are you? I'm not exactly Gen X. Me and Jamie are like right at that fissure where we flip over. We're the sweet spot. We're going to be the arbiters. We're going to have to speak between these gaps, right? We're going to be the middleman that helps reconcile the warfare that's coming. Because millennials and the Gen Z, right? We're going to have a hard time talking to the boomer elements of the Gen X, you see. So the way it works is each generation will have a little bit of the previous generation and a little bit of the next generation. That's what they are. And they're going to be a mix of those. So you need that younger generation to be the bridge between the gap, right? So no millennial can talk to a boomer. It's different lingo, different worldviews, attitudes, experiences. It's a big part of this, different experiences, right? So you got, and that's me. I got a little bit of Gen X in me. I'm on the very tip, right? Flipping over, spilling over into Gen X. I mean, into millennial. But I saw enough of the 80s and 90s to understand their mindset. They were raised by the boomers. So understand the Gen X are raised by boomers. So we got to understand what was the programming being put into their noggins back in the 80s and 90s. And then we can maybe project what kind of a world we can expect with the passing of the boomer reigns of power. Right? When the throne passes to Prince Troy Dyer, right? From Lord King, who's like the ultimate boomer? Lord King Rodney Dangerfield? I don't know. No, that's like a grandparent. Who's a boomer? Who's the ultimate boomer? First of all, let's pick out the ultimate boomer. Trying to think of like sitcom dads. No. Who's the ultimate boomer, Jamie? Jimmy Buffett? Cheeseburger in paradise. Pop my flip-top on a flip-flop top on a bottle top. Give me a cheeseburger and a beer in Florida. I mean, I don't know anything about Jimmy Buffett's cheeseburgers and beers in Florida or something. And flip-flops or something. I don't know, but okay, so yeah, okay, Jimmy Buffett, I'll take that. Beach Boys, are they a little older? They're kind of boomer. The ultimate boomer, I'll take that as a good one, Jamie, as Jim Buffett. Jimmy Buffett, and then Troy Dyer is his legitimate heir. Who's Troy Dyer? Well, Reality Bites. Okay, so we just watched Reality Bites. I forgot about Reality Bites. It's actually not that bad of a 90s movie just as a movie, okay? But what kind of a world will it be when we're ruled over by Troy Dyer? Now, if you don't know who Troy Dyer is, basically the ultimate Gen X dude in every Gen X era, Gen X movie that speaks for that generation, okay? Movies like Before Sunrise, Richard Linklater, movies like Reality Bites, right? Ethan Hawke plays the sort of the archetypal Gen X dude. And yeah, I mean, technically you could say it's Gen whatever Y, but it's like right at the flip of millennials. So we kind of have we got a little millennial and a little Gen Y in us. That's why it's not technically Gen X. Anyway. So yeah, so Troy Dyer though is the archetype of what I'm talking about, right? The guy coming of age in the 90s, the mid 90s. And I had never actually seen Before Sunrise. So this was I've seen a lot of Richard Linklater's films. This was the one Richard Linklater film I'd not yet seen, I think. And of course, Richard has had Alex in two films, Scanner Darkly, Waking Life. We've done analyses. Tristan and I have done analyses, I think, of both of those. So if you can find those as well, those also speak to Gen X, right? I mean, Richard Linklater is a consummate Gen X filmmaker, right? Cameron Crowe, consummate Gen X filmmaker. Kevin Smith, consummate Gen X filmmaker. So, we're talking 90s MTV stuff. That's what we're going to be looking at, because a lot of this 90s MTV stuff is so wild, the programming that's in it when you look back at it now. So this is the mind control stuff that they were getting. And you'll see this when Jamie and I cover our 5 Gen X dramedy alt comedies, or alt coms, you could call them. We'll be covering Empire Records, which is a terrible movie, Mad Love, Before Sunrise, Reality Bites, Beautiful Girls with Timothy Hutton and Uma Thurman, and one more movie. I forgot what. But also that crop of movies is a really good selection and taste of the Gen X era of the late 80s and 90s. Yeah, so people are noticing a lot of that stuff. Yeah, exactly. A lot of you guys, I'm sure my audience is probably mostly, I already know what you guys are. It's like 95% dudes. Shout out to my bros. And we've got like 5% girls. But age breakdown is like, I think my audience is probably 75% Gen X, millennial, and younger. So we're kind of in that sweet spot as well. I mean, my audience is its own little generation. That's what we're saying. Anyway, so I want to remind you, though, speaking of Gen X icons and images and faces, this man right here that you see on the screen, he was so hip to do another live LA event that I want to remind you guys to sign up, get a ticket now for our new live event in Los Angeles again, Hollywood area, or Santa Monica area. Jamie Kennedy, me, Jamie. It is not the same event. It's all new stuff, all new lecture, all new jokes, all new stuff. And it's March 15th, right there. Go get those tickets. It's going to be a blast. Okay. We got another venue. We got another, we're going to be doing another little road tour. So get your tickets right there at the Eventbrite link. And it's going to be a blast. Now, if you remember, a lot of fun things came out of this, right? So we're basically there with, we're there with like Gen X incarnate, right? I mean, Jamie Kennedy, Scream. Randy Meeks, dude, that's Gen X, bro. Right?
Today is an epic.
Remember this?
Spoke for like an hour and a half each. I had guest speakers, and then I went on and did 20 minutes, and then I got to take 40 minutes of questions. I would have did 2. I can't be.
So he's talking about the event, how much fun it was, right? That's why you got to go to this. Listen to what he said.
But these guys are 100%. If you're an artist and you want to do it yourself, this is your model. This is your model team. And we did an event.
DIY, baby.
At an amazing place called the Valley Relics Museum. Jay put it together with his wife, Jamie. They had a 5-hour event. 5 hours. And they spoke for like an hour and a half each. They had guest speakers, and then I went on and did 20 minutes, and then I got to take 40 minutes of questions. I would have did 2 hours. And it was all like 100 people. And it's amazing. Like, I got
Reviews.
New thrills, new excitement, same gorgeous cranium. MTV's Oddities presents a brand new.
Go ahead and get
season of
those tickets,
America's
baby.
favorite Dome Boy, The Head. By God, what's wrong with you people? Every Tuesday, kicking off.
So this is what 90s people are watching, right? And you're going to notice in a lot of the commercials, as we look through some of this stuff, 90s commercials were already pretty rife with propaganda, especially the MTV audience. And it's like they're already pushing a lot of the woke stuff way before you even know about woke stuff, right? They're already pushing a lot of feminist stuff. And again, everybody's like freaking out because of the, oh, you're crazy for talking about Taylor Swift like she might be an asset for the government and used in that way. That's so crazy. They're pushing Rock the Vote in the 1990s with freaking In Vogue, right? Red Hot Chili Pepper, telling you basically to vote for Bill Clinton. Okay, I mean, give me a break. Free your mind, and the rest will follow. Be colorblind. Don't be so shallow. Basically saying, go and vote for Bill Clinton. Go rock the vote. I did not have freedom fries at that McDonald's. We were in Italy. There was like a random restaurant with a giant poster out front, like a giant screen with Bill Clinton on the front in Naples. I'm like, what is Bill Clinton doing on a restaurant, like a giant banner in front of a Naples restaurant in the middle of nowhere? Turns out Bill Clinton was friends with the owner. Man, Naples is so nasty and ghetto, dude. It's unbelievable. If you've never been to Naples, just keep it that way. Stay never been to Naples. That place was crazy. Felt like I was in a damn African warlords, war zone. I'm going to get my heart ripped out and eaten by General Butt Naked, and he's going to start chanting Mola Ram's ritual liturgy over me.
Hour special featuring a look behind the scenes at the Head Shop. Plus, get a big, bald recap of the story so far. Don't be dead from the neck up. Watch the new season of The Head. Special 1 hour season premiere Tuesday night at 10.
So back at that time, MTV would premiere all of this really weird, kind of bizarre fringe stuff. So there was actually kind of a period in, say, 93 to 97. I explained this when I did my 90s stream, right? Where it was actually okay. It wasn't always bad. I mean, it was just a time when actually organic, artistic people could actually experiment with their sketches, their shows, and you can see this is very, Beavis and Butthead style, right? So people are trying to get some artistic exposure, and a big dominant theme in the 90s, and I know because I was, a teenager coming of age at that time, it was all about being anti-corporate. Okay, so the whole MTV culture started as an anti the man, right? Oh, we're against the man. Of course, everybody was too stupid to recognize that MTV is a big corporation and part of the man. But they were, at least at the beginning, having this appearance of genuine creativity and non-corporate control and all this kind of stuff. And that's interesting because that will actually be a theme in several of the 90s alt-com movies that we watch. And my suspicion is that that's the older dim left culture from the boomers, right? Like boomers that were counterculture, boomers that were, free love, 60s, whatever. The ones that hadn't become yuppies or hadn't decided to become, neocons, their offspring make up this generation of people who know that they don't like the man and they don't like corporations, but they don't have any philosophy or identity. That's the weird part. So it's like, we know we should rebel, but for what and why? And so the key characteristic that is there in the sort of is the essence of the ethos of Gen X, unfortunately, is apathy. However, there's good and bad to this, because the apathy of Gen X is not it's not all bad. You might think, well, but why? Why would it, if they're going to be our new overlords, wouldn't it be all bad if they're apathetic? Well, somebody who's at the stage of kind of being apathetic, it's a lot easier and better for them to move in the right direction than if they're a very self-righteous crusader for some stupid idea, right? And that is what characterizes the ethics, the ethos, the mindset of a lot of the boomer generation. Committed to, for example, Democratic Party for what reason? Because I've always been a Democrat. My family was always Democrat going back to the Mayfield or whatever bullshit they would pull, right? I'm joking when I say that. Obviously, I know the Democratic Party doesn't go back to the you know what I'm saying, like this mindless tradition of, well, that's just what my family's up. We're long-time Dixie Democrats. Okay, but why? So what does that even mean, right? Boomers very ethical, very like committed to some sort of crusade of social justice without any idea why. Now, the Gen X, unfortunately, did inherit this social justice crusade mentality, but they're a lot less consistent with it, or they give up on it because some of them figured out that it's without foundation. And when we look at some of the characters in the movies, we'll see that, right? We'll notice that, I just call him Troy Dyer, right? But Ethan Hawke's character, will consistently in various films reflect on what we're supposed to rebel, but against what and why, right? And although I'm not a huge fan of Linklater films, I mean, he does at least tend to make somewhat philosophical movies, and you don't really get those anymore. I guess he was kind of the last of that of the Gen X era of art house films. So there's some movement or step towards deeper thinking. I'm not saying that what he talks about is like, I mean, it's not like. It's not giving you any answers, right? But at least at that time, they would make art house films that ask philosophical questions. I mean, Waking Life does ask philosophical questions, okay? And very few films have done that. So even though I don't really think I'm just giving it some props compared especially to the garbage that we see today, which isn't even the arts, really. So, I'm just thinking about the attitudes of the good part of the apathy is that they're not maybe as committed to social justice as many of these boomers were. However, I could be wrong. We may come to find that they double down and it's even worse than the boomers. But I'm just looking for a ray of hope there with the possibility that maybe they won't be that bad. Does that make sense? Do you guys get what I'm saying about? I don't know why we're seeing this. So this is like the commercials of that time. You notice they were like the comedy. They're really pushing slapstick. Like that's. I think it was always that way too with trailers, because trailers are always trying to have the most mass appeal. So they probably did some study group that figured out that slapstick is the most wide appealing of comedy, which, I mean, again, we're going to notice too that as we go through generations, what generations think is funny is also vastly different. And that's always been fascinating to me. I don't know exactly why that is. I think there's probably a lot of factors to it. However, I do not think that all comedy is subjective. So I don't know if you guys have noticed, but across YouTube, there's all of these channels now that are popping up, and comedy now is like a huge topic on YouTube. partly also because of the Cat Williams interview that's like 60 million views now or whatever. People are now noticing that it seems like there have been some gatekeepers when it comes to the comedy scene. And a lot of theories flying around, a lot of people saying this guy sucks, he's been foisted on everybody, this, that, and the other. We've covered Cat Williams, okay. I'm not going to do it again. That's not necessary. We've already done that, okay. But what that speaks to, again, is the legacy system is like in every area going away. But what's happening is legacy-minded people are now coming on to the non-legacy systems and platforms and trying to game that game and control that game. And what's happening is that people, I'm hoping, here's my hope, right? As we get away from boomers and into Gen X overlordship, perhaps we will have better opportunities in that realm as well. So, Elon Musk, Gen X man, right? I'm pretty sure, right? He's Gen X. He's got to be, right? So you notice there's definitely a change of attitude with the way Elon is handling Twitter. Again, it doesn't matter what you think of Elon and is he whatever. I'm just pointing at the generational element. Nobody's talked about this yet. Well, isn't Elon Gen X? Am I correct about that? I don't even know. I mean, what if Elon's like 25 and I'm a complete idiot and I think I know what I'm talking about. But he looks like a Gen X kind of. I mean, he's got the Gen X looking look. He's got to be 52. That's Gen X. So yeah, I'm correct. And a lot of the people in the media that we're talking about right here, a lot of the people I've got to meet, interact with, Alex Jones, Gen X, right? Jamie Kennedy's Gen X. So we have some hope with our emerging new overlords. Tucker's got to be Gen X, right? He can't be boomer. No, he's definitely Gen X. So you see what I'm saying? The step in the right direction that we're getting right now is because these emerging figures are not boomers. That's an element nobody's talked about. So I'm saying this is it's not all bad. Maybe we can get some, maybe there's some bright spots in this stuff. That's what I'm saying. We don't have to be black-pilled. But look, do you have...
Dad?
What the heck is this?
Do you ever wonder why we're here?
Where?
Here. Why we exist?
No.
How come?
I got better things to think about.
Existential questions, Milo and Otis style. Why do we exist?
Well, why are we the way we are? I mean, I'd give anything to be as big as you.
True. You ain't big, but you're real quick.
Quick. Yeah. I guess it all evens out then, huh?
Well, that might be pushing it. Red dog.
Hey, Red.
That's an odd ad. What existential questions that doggies are asking? And it's about Red Dog beer. Remember Red Dog beer? It was nasty, but I remember getting it one time because that was the only option when we were headed to the lake. But I don't really understand I don't really get that question. that ad was odd. Like, by the way, maybe it does make sense though, because one thing you'll notice when we get to the Gen X movies is a lot of existential questions. And maybe that's because a lot of philosophy of the 1990s and the philosophy that comes out in the arts is oftentimes Nietzschean and existentialist. So that makes a lot of sense. Remember I Heart Huckabees? That was early 2000s. That's an existentialist movie. I don't really know what to say about the philosophy of, Before Sunrise, because they actually debate a lot of interesting elements in the movie. They debate feminism. They debate New Age stuff. So one positive side, for example, to this, and you'll see this when Jamie and I do the the movie analysis, is that perhaps the Gen X began to question a lot of the goofy assumptions of what the boomers had turned to. So, for example, boomers had turned away from traditional biblical religion, right? Whether Protestant or Roman Catholic or whatever. And so they were inundated with that 60s counterculture experimentation with Far Eastern philosophies. And this is actually lampooned in Before Sunrise because the Ethan Hawke character starts making fun of boomer ideas of like reincarnation and, you know, just sort of mindlessly adopting these things without thinking about it. I mean, that has now spilled out into the mainstream, obviously, because you've got infinite yoga chicks on Instagram that, you know, think they're spiritual, which is all just nonsense. But my point is just, again, maybe we're starting to see a gradual thing. And one thing I've noticed with the generations too, you all know this, we've talked about it a million times, the generations don't, it's like they can wake up or see things so far. And that's why, I don't know what's the whole secret of the boomer thing. We've talked about it, speculated about it. I mean, boomers can only go so far when it comes to questioning things, events. You know, they'll talk about UFOs and JFK, that's it. And of course, aliens are faking gray, faking gay anyway. So, I mean, that's like not even a real questioning. Well, the government's lying to us about aliens. No, they're not. The government wants you to believe in aliens because it's retarded, right? I mean, the government wants you to believe in that. But the government didn't want you questioning the JFK event, and that's why the term conspiracy theorist was concocted out of the JFK event via the CIA. So, you know, boomers can go so far. And then you got, you know, Gen X going a little further. But for people younger than that, me, millennials, and younger, there's that sweet spot where you could, for at least maybe from 2003 until, say, 2016, right? That was the sweet spot for being able to access tremendous amounts of information that wasn't censored, and figure out what was going on in major events. And from 2016 until 2022, this is the crazy part. The internet completely changed. You got this huge lockdown on information, mass banning, mass censoring, mass deplatforming, everything, right? And we were here living through all of that. We experienced that firsthand. Entire website deleted, censored, demonetized on this channel still from one word that somebody said 6 years ago. And they still say this channel is harmful content. So I harm people. I just noticed a podcast with 1 million subscribers that talks about dildongs. Okay, you know what I mean? Bilbos, right? The whole channel is nothing about that, nothing but that. They're monetized, no problem, right? But if you talk about what I talk about, no, you harm people. Of course, this channel doesn't harm people, but you can see the point. And we're still being held to these bizarro social justice standards. Where does all this come from? Well, it comes from, unfortunately, the first phase of social justice. Now, it's true, you can say, well, social justice goes back to like Puritans and, communists and Puritan communism, which that's a real thing. Yes, that's true in terms of old ancient origins. But in the modern period, I really think we gotta lay the blame at the feet of boomers and the Seattle scene. The Seattle scene was so huge, especially in the 80s and 90s. And this is the danger for the Gen X, because a lot of those Gen X were the pioneer social justice warrior, tech initiated social justice warrior people, right? Zuckerbergs, people like that. They were locking down everybody's information access from 2016 to 2022. And it's still pretty much locked down except for a little bit a little breather on X. And X is like the internet now prior to, I mean, it's like the internet was like in 2014, basically, right? So if you remember how things were, it's kind of like that. But everything else is really not like that. There's a little more breathing room here on YouTube than in 2020. But that is the dark side of the Gen X social justice warrior. And I've been thinking and trying to pinpoint, where do the Gen X people get this social? Because it wasn't just because some boomer parent like sat them down and told them you got to save the world by getting rid of mean speak, right? No, it has to do with the scene. I'm serious. I'm really thinking this. And the culture, the pop culture and the pop culture scene that was pushed in the 80s and 90s, which is encapsulated in grunge music. Now, certainly there were many other styles of music that pushed social justice stuff. Punk music, I've never been into punk music, but punk music did pretty quickly get into pushing social justice. And a lot of the punk scene overlaps with the grunge scene. And the grunge scene was so huge in the late 80s, early 90s, that its ostensible basis makes sense, as we said, which was to be against corporate music. So they had this sensible idea as the basic starting point. But what happened was they also had then started attaching all of these other made-up Democratic Party agendas of the 1990s to that scene. And MTV played a huge role in this. So in other words, MTV, which promoted this grunge scene, as well as all the other scenes. But if you take metal, for example, metal in the 1990s, and I'm not a metal dude, I've never really been into metal, but metal was not woke. It didn't have this activist agenda. Nowadays, it has gone that way. Everything has. But in the 80s and 90s, metal wasn't interested in that. It was apolitical. It was pretty apathetic. But the Seattle grunge scene was super woke before anyone else was woke. And you can see that with the activism that they engaged in. I remember in the 1990s when Eddie Vedder would do his concerts, and sometimes MTV would live stream, or they would play the concerts live. Eddie Vedder would be writing pro-choice on his arms and holding them up with markers in the midst of his concerts. Like, just dumb, just dumb. Like, what? I mean, if you're gonna commit yourself to something like a marker, we all know your marker is gonna wash off in a month, right? So somebody paid him for that stupid promo today, and it's just dumb, right? Writing on yourself with a marker. You would get Chris Cornell would engage in a lot of the same behavior. He famously, whenever he would come to the Bible Belt and put on concerts, he would always blaspheme on purpose against anybody in the audience that, if you believe in the Bible, you get out of here, you're dumb, all this kind of stuff. Like that's even edgy, right? It wasn't even edgy in the 90s to do that. Maybe a little more edgy in the 90s, right? But now that everybody's basically a piece of garbage atheist social justice warrior, none of that's even edgy. You know what I mean? It's like the comedians were still doing Trump jokes, and even to this day, like it's not edgy to do. Nobody, it's not edgy. Like when you're the dominant voice, it's not edgy for you to act that way. It's just cringe. Anyway. But you see the point. If you would hit like and share, welcome everybody. We're having a lot of fun. Now some of the grunge bands so I'm talking about specifically the Seattle scene, right? So people are saying, well, what about other grunge bands from other states or whatever? That's not really the grunge. I mean, the grunge scene comes out of Seattle. There's something going on in Seattle in the 80s and 90s. In fact, they were making movies that were pushing Seattle like it was some place to go, and I don't know what they do this. They actually do this. If you think about LA Confidential, if you watch the beginning of LA Confidential, Danny DeVito talks about how there was this intentional push in the 40s and 50s to tell people to move to Hollywood. And for whatever reason, in the 80s and 90s, there was an intentional push promoting Seattle. And Seattle became, this hub of social justice, activism, and just a lot of the nonsense. And probably underneath that, San Francisco, Silicon Valley, right? Why exactly Seattle? I don't know. I've never been to Seattle. It always looked like a garbage, rainy place to me. Never a place I'd want to go. But other examples would be all the other bands there, like taking on other social justice causes, taking on the green agenda, the cross-dressing agenda. Many of the grunge bands began as bands that played in dresses. I mean, I'm pretty sure Nirvana even did this, right? I'm pretty sure, didn't Kurt Cobain even do this? Now, I think there's some things going on with Kurt Cobain too that, I mean, I do believe the conspiracy elements of Kurt Cobain. And there's some interesting information and footage that's emerged over the years with, for example, the band talking about human TRAFFICKING. That's very suspicious. Chris Cornell famously also eventually began to talk about that, the story goes. I don't know what happened for sure with Chris Cornell, but apparently he also got interested in orthodoxy. So, rest in peace, Chris Cornell. I wish the best for him. I want to believe that and hope that, that was a real sincere conversion. I definitely hope so. There was a lot of talk of a documentary that would be made and that he might be involved in that. I don't know how true that is, but nothing would surprise me. So I think probably what happens is some of these Seattle grunge bands got into the system. They saw what was going on and they were either tempted to speak out or try to get out of it. And they learned what was really going on in the music industry. And you'll notice that, people, some of the bands that continued to be successful and move on, people like Courtney Love, right? These kinds of people, they were promoted up in Hollywood. So one of the first interviews that we did a long time ago was on my channel. Actually, I think it's still on there. You can go find the old Kurt Cobain interview with one of the detectives that Sean Helton did from 21st Century Wire. I think that's still on here. Yes, thank you, by the way. Great point, Harvest Press, that Lilith Fair also played a huge role in this 80s, 90s era social justice stuff. Yeah, that's right, because Lilith Fair didn't just promote on a mass scale Skittles. They tied it with pro-abortion Skittles and like feminist stuff. So you're absolutely right. And I don't even remember who it. So it was like, I think remember Natalie Merchant, right? She's like a quintessential 90s, bohemian coffee house atheist type chick. Edie Brickell is the essence of this. I don't know. I'm not aware of too many things. I know what I know, if you know what I mean. Philosophy is talk on a cereal box. Religion is a smile on a dog. Oh, bro, it's so deep, dude. It's like you think you're being deep, talking about God or whatever, but you might as well just be talking about a smile on a dog's face. It doesn't exist, not real, bro. It was deep, dude. Deep. Tori Amos. You started getting these like viciously vocal atheist artists and atheist artist girls, which I don't remember that, right? If you go back to the 80s, and I was a kid in the 80s, but I remember Madonna and Janet Jackson, and let's see, who are the 80s girls? Bananarama. It's all goofy, You know what I mean? I mean, Madonna was degenerate, but there's no 80s girls who have these social justice atheist causes in your face, right? And then in the 90s, you start getting these just, like, you feel like their breath would stink if you talk to them, right? Like the 4 Non-Blondes, right? And I said, hey, yeah, 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 yeah. Hey, yeah, yeah. I said, hey, what's going on? And I wake in the morning and I step outside and I take a deep breath and I get real high and I scream at the top of my lungs, what's going on? Like, what are you mad about? Just bitching. Right?
So there's no reason.
No, not even a reason to be mad, but it's like Troy Dyer said, right? We're freaking mad, but at what and why? Right? I mean, just look at this chick, dude. You know this chick is not going to be fun to be around, right? And she looks like half of the Instagram chicks now. Okay? Whoa, look at her. Yikes. This, this girl. This is quintessential 90s alt chick who is an activist. Okay, so they had successfully recruited and controlled and brainwashed quite a few of these 90s girl boss artists. Okay, and they all pushed atheism, and they all pushed, because the lyrics of her song, if you listen to it, I mean, it's unintentionally revealing. It's very telling. So I wake in the morning, I step outside, I take a deep breath, I get real high, I scream from the top of my lungs, what's going on? And I pray. Oh my God, do I pray? I pray every single day for a revolution. Okay, what God are you praying to that is a revolution against what? Against the man. The man? Who's that? Bush Sr.? I mean, your boss at Starbucks? Who's the man, right? I mean, and there's a little bit of truth in that. Yeah, like if Starbucks sucks, and Starbucks was new in the 90s. And yeah, George Bush Sr., he's lame, but there's nothing here. There's no there to rebel about and rebel against. It's not clear. It's just rebellion for rebellion's sake, right? And what's she doing? She's got the Mystery Method outfit. Remember Mystery? Mystery trying to look like the 4 Non-Blondes chick. He's like, I know how to pick up chicks, dude. I got the Mystery Method. I'm going to look like the girl from 4 Non-Blondes. Literally like a top hat. A top hat with goggles. Right? Like a social justice warrior activist steampunk chick. What? With dreads. Anyway, weird vibe. But that kind of does make sense, though, because there was this phase in the early 90s of steampunk first being popular. Which is, again, for whatever reason, oddly enough, popular. Okay, in St. Augustine, we've got, in a small town, we've got 2 steampunk stores. There's enough business drive for steampunk materials, right? For 2 steampunk stores. 2 steampunk stores. Why do we have 2 steampunks? Anyway, that fad is not going to last. I'll tell you that right now. Watch, I'll be totally wrong, and like Gen X will demand that everybody dresses in the Gen X dictatorship in steampunk. Like Elon Musk sets up a steampunk dictatorship, and to get your carbon credits erased for that week to eat the kibble, you gotta dress steampunk. I'll tell you what, when that happens, I will wake in the morning and step outside, get real high and scream from the top of my lungs, what's going on? Okay, I'm on team 4 Non-Blondes at that point. Anyway, remind you guys to head on over to right here and get your tickets. The tickets are listed in the show description. Also got to remind you that we have a show sponsor, and the links for that show sponsor, chalk.com, are in the show description. So listen to this brief interlude from our beloved sponsors, chalk.com, baby. And when we come back, we'll investigate some more of the indoctrination and the mindset, the control mechanisms in the head, in the noggins of the Gen X overlords taking over very soon from our boomer masters.
I'm gonna put you on something crazy real quick. Most of these Zoomer gym bros are consuming macro-guzzling synthetic dyes and synthetic sweeteners on the daily. They don't even know it. Goofy AF. There's nothing great about that. Do not listen any further unless you are an alpha or sigma male. This is important and there could be consequences. There's a new sigma male pre-workout powder for sigmas only. It is guaranteed for you to dominate your co-workers, fire your boss, aggressively gamble, or invade a small village. Stands out from the crowd by excluding artificial flavors, preservatives, sweeteners, and dyes. We've even avoided so-called natural flavors, which are actually not natural at all, ensuring a clean and effective formula. Experience the pure goodness of Chad Mode, colored with organic blue spirulina extract, organic lemon, cherry, and organic maple crystals. Forget synthetic caffeine made in a sketchy Chinese lab. Embrace the natural power of organic green coffee bean extract, which will get your mind going and pump you up to the max. Chad Mode is made in America with all clean ingredients, the first clean pre-workout of its kind. Why are these people adding synthetic sweeteners to every single pre-workout when there are many studied downsides to consuming nasty fake sucralose? Each dose of Chad Mode contains the kick of a cup and a half of coffee, delivering a surge of energy alongside essential vitamins, minerals, amino acids, and herbal extracts. Chad Mode will allow you to fire your boss and dominate anyone who opposes you. Chad Mode will make you more dominant in your daily life. So proceed with caution. It's as simple as mixing 1 or 2 scoops of our fine powder into water or juice, providing you with a delicious, energizing beverage featuring a burst of sweet organic fruit flavor. Chad Mode will give you the extra edge you desperately crave. Don't miss out. Secure your supply of Chad Mode on TikTok Shop with a limited time massive discount. Elevate your workouts and supercharge your days. Chad Mode. Not for your average gym bro zoomer who consumes synthetic blue dyes on the daily. Buy on the TikTok Shop now with a massive discount provided by TikTok for a very limited time. Buy now while this is still available, or go to chalk.com and use code in caption. Chad Mode has been flying off the shelves because it's the first of its kind, certified for alpha males only. Do not buy if you are a beta. We will refund your money. I'm gonna put you on something crazy real quick. Most of these Zoomer gym bros are consuming macro-guzzling synthetic dyes and synthetic sweeteners on the daily. They don't even know it. Goofy AF. There's nothing great about that. Do not listen any further unless you are an alpha or sigma male. This is important and there could be consequences. There's a new certified sigma male pre-workout powder for sigmas only. It is guaranteed to empower you to dominate your co-workers, fire your boss, aggressively gamble, or invade a small village. Chad Mode stands out from the crowd by excluding
Head on over to chalk.com. Use promo code J50. There's a dude in the chat that said, I'm not alpha. I guess it's time to wrap it up and head on home. Well, every 1990s dad was a Chad.
Try America Online. So I did. I've gotten help with my golf swing.
Look at that. My dad did not have AOL online.
Try America Online.
In fact, my dad was actually kind of good when it came to this kind of stuff because he was like, I don't want anything to do with the internet because it costs money. So my dad didn't want to pay $2.99 a month for AOL dial-up or whatever it was. So, but that actually ended up being a good thing because I, for a long time, didn't really like the internet. I didn't like the internet even until up into like 2003. You know, I would use it when I had to use it, but I mean, dad's on the net, dude.
Online. So I did. I've gotten help.
Yeah. So what is hot on the net? Well, golf. Dads want to check that golf swing on the internet. Head on over to AOL and get on Netscape Navigator. Who came up with Netscape Navigator? Oh, our friends at the Epstein family. Did you know that? Yes, I'm right. Yes, you heard me right. Ghislaine and her sisters came up with Netscape Navigator. Shout out to my girl. Shout out to Ghislaine. What's up, girl? How you doing? You keeping it real?
My golf swing. I've planned my next vacation.
Dads couldn't get on the net and perfect their golf swing if it wasn't for Ghislaine.
Even get stock price up.
I'm not joking, by the way. People think I'm joking. Ghislaine and her sister, Isabel, the other sister or brother or whatever, and Ghislaine came up with Netscape Navigator. I'm serious. Dead serious. Yes, they did. There's a whole chapter on it. I'll show you the Wired articles. I'm not saying Ghislaine sat there and coded it, dude. I'm not dumb. I'm saying that they probably found some nerd to code it, and then they were like, we'll be the business people to package and sell it, which is what they did. And I forget the name of their company. They had a company called McLean. John McClane. Merry Christmas, mother effer. John McClane. No, not McClane. Let's see. Here it is. Isabel Maxwell. McKinley. Okay, they had a company called McKinley. McKinley created Magellan, and eventually they created Netscape Navigator. So, and by the way, every time you're searching on the internet, you know, your dirty searches, naked dads playing golf, right? A lot of y'all in the chat probably were searching that tonight. Guess who's watching you through your Netscape Navigator? Ghislaine's over there. She's over there watching. Now, I'm joking, but actually, she theorizes that was the intention, to have a spy tool by which everyone could be blackmailed in a very easy way, rather than the elaborate parties that they were having, which actually makes quite a bit of sense. And that's why her chapter ends with total information awareness and John Poindexter and all that stuff. So
every 15 minutes.
So props. We couldn't have dads on the net and moms on the net without
America Online.
Without our girl Ghislaine.
It's over 100 newspapers and magazines right on my screen.
Whoa, 100 newspapers
email,
in one.
Point-and-click internet access.
But you see, this was fairly innocent in the 90s, right? And I will, here's the crazy part. I will be the last generation that, you know, unless the world ends, that remembers the life before the internet. That's crazy to think about. I was born at that weird inflection point where I will be, you know, as time moves on, like the millennials will a little, but eventually, right, when millennials are too old or whatever, like I will be, people won't know what life was like before the internet. So I'm that weird generation that does remember that. Again, it's very much a like vector point generation, my age group. And because I came of age right before the internet was everywhere, right before it was all all pervasive. And I do have to say, as I've said many times, you know, there's a lot of good to the internet, but honestly, and this is coming from somebody who has an internet business, I do not think that this has been a good thing for the world overall. I think that and it's not the tech itself. There's nothing inherently bad about high-level encrypted information systems. I mean, but it all comes out of warfare. It's like this comes out of the spy world and espionage and warfare, and that shouldn't be for everybody. So, you see what I'm saying? I mean, yes, it's like the PC freed people to become kind of their own. It's like a lot of libertarian ideas that sound good in theory, but when you actually put it out into the population and introduce all the toxic stuff, and then when Silicon Valley takes over the internet via the social media, it gets way worse. And they even say that they designed social media to take over the internet and make you addicted to the dopamine of the scroll and the never-ending information feed, and it just makes you into an idiot. And look, we got to be honest. A big problem, a big part of today's problems it's the internet. And I mean, obviously it's not going away. I don't know. I don't have any answers for you. But yeah, and it's getting worse. And I'm saying that because I remember how much more normal life was, even with garbage TV, like even with MTV and all the garbage in the 90s. We still had a lot of normal stuff. I had that last bit of normal life, is what I'm trying to say. Of a man that, you know, learns things about the world. I played sports. I asked girls out on date. You know, I couldn't wait to get a car when I was 16. I drove a car. I mean, I did all these things that were, you have to go meet people. This kind of stuff. You had to learn enough people skills to, for example, go get a job and talk to the boss and so, you know, reason with them like an adult. You couldn't just only get online and get a job. And I'm not bitching about young people. I mean, it's not their fault. Like, that's how it is, right? And I was actually trying to get jobs back when that flipped. In the 2000s, all that flipped to where you didn't present your resume and fill out something to a boss. Everything went to, you fill out your stuff online. And that, I started thinking, well, that's really bizarre because, I mean, you can't, I guess you could vet people, but I mean, you could vet people by getting the resume. So it was just going in a darker and darker direction is what I'm trying to say. I mean, what else did we have to do before internet? It just seems like there were so many more natural human activities that you participated in. And now a lot of that has been lost. And it's all just replaced by the convenience of internet. So we don't go over to other people's houses anymore, and we don't have game night anymore where everybody gets together and plays board games. And I mean, what are we doing now? Well, we're staring at damn phones. It's like, this is not human life. This is some weird dystopia that has emerged. And I remember being in the 90s watching dystopian movies on VHS and thinking, dude, is that the world we're going into? Yes, it is. What? This is just crazy. And not many people remember the world before the internet. And it's weird. It's like, I don't know, man. It's creepy. It's like a collective delusion where people are forgetting. You know, I resonate with Fahrenheit 451 where, I mean, are the books going to be banned? Yes, they will. In fact, today, on Twitter, Jamie sent me the pop-up black chick that comes on and tells you that you shouldn't be watching Blazing Saddles, but if you're going to watch it, understand that it's got a bunch of stuff that will trigger you. It's like, that's the stage before the books are banned. Under the auspices of woke. And Bertrand Russell said that that's what they would do. And I tell this people I said, look, all this stuff is in those guys. Bertrand Russell said in the 1930s, when we get this in place, the technocratic dictatorship, he says, you won't read Shakespeare or the Bible. You will not read those things. You will not have access to those things. Won't have access? What do you mean? There's a bookstore down the road. Are you sure about that? No, there's not. Right? I mean, we have the remnants of bookstores left. There's what, one chain? The only one that's lasted is what, Barnes & Noble, right? Is that the only one left? It's pretty much, I mean, yes, there's mom and pop bookstores, but those won't be around much longer. I mean, Nashville used to have like 8 bookstores. Nashville's got 3, maybe. And Rhino won't be around much longer. And ironically, it's staffed by all these like social justice idiots. They're like, you worship the thing that's going to put you out of business, dummy. I think there's 2 Rhinos left, maybe 1. And I like Rhino books. I bought tons of books from Rhino over the years in Nashville. But what I'm saying is, there ain't going to be a Rhino books in 5 to 10 years. There won't be. There may not even be a Barnes and Noble in 10 years. Now, Jeffrey Bezos is going to let us get books for a few more years, sure. But another article was out last week saying that reading Lord of the Rings leads to right-wing extremism. So, and they were saying that also about reading Ian Fleming's books. So Bond is going to be banned. James Bond. Right? You ain't going to be talking about Bilbo and Frodo. They're going to send you to the gulag. You're talking about Bilbo and Frodo. Okay. That's how crazy. I'm not joking. This is where we're going. Why you got so many books? Because I knew this stuff was coming, dude. That's why. And yeah, they can come, arrest you and put you in the gulag and burn all your books or whatever. But what we're going into is planned. And what we're talking about right now is that weird phase of the 1980s and 90s scene, MTV / grunge / alt music. Now, here's another thing that's interesting. Some of the social engineering documents that we talked about via Stanford Research, 1970s, when Toffler, for example, talks about in his Global Elite text, alternative lifestyles. What was the biggest genre in the 1990s, under which, by the way, the Seattle grunge scene was classed? Okay. Grunge was kind of part of what? What's the big 90s? So, and for those that don't know, prior to indie music, okay, so in the 2000s, the hip, cool scene was indie, right? Which meant, I'm not corporate. I just listen to indie. You don't know. And so hipsters were, which is, again, millennial, right? Millennials were hipsters. And hipsters didn't listen to corporate music. They listened to indie rock. Because I'm not like corporate or whatever. I go to Vanderbilt. And I wear suspenders, and I have a mustache, and I'm into clap stomp banjo indie music. I don't listen to corporation music like you. And I know of like 5,000 really obscure indie bands. And if you don't know those bands, then I'm better than you, right? Like you go into a music store in the 2000s when they still had music stores. Nowadays, a few record stores, right? But music stores were still very popular in the 2000s. Really big in the 90s. Starting to die in the 2000s. And everybody that works in the music store is the most pretentious douchebag ever. And if you go in the music stores now, it's still that way, right? Any dude that works in a record store, because records are so popular, that's going to be the most pretentious dude ever, right? He's over there with, I don't know, he's got suspenders and a freaking handlebar mustache. And if you don't know the garbage that he's playing in the store on the record, right? He's going to like just look down at you like you're total garbage, right? And you're like, you're trying to pay for your record or whatever, right? And you're like, what is that? Can you turn that down? Turn it. You've never heard of Knife Ass? That's like the best indie grunge straight edgecore ska band of 2002 in the Bay Area scene. You don't. It's like, I don't know about your esoteric gay music religion. Get out of here. Just give me my damn Oasis CD and shut up. Right? I actually had that experience, is why I'm saying that, right? Like, turn this thing off, please. What are you playing? I'm trying to shop for music here, and you're playing the word. That's Knife Ass. They're the best straight edge queercore ska band from the Bayside in 2003. How do you not know about us? Anyway, if you do want to start a fight if you're a guy and you just want to start a fight, pick a record store douchebag to start a fight, because I guarantee you'll win. And that's the kind of dude that, like, he needs to be in a fight. That's what I'm saying. I'm just joking, by the way, before somebody says, he's calling for violence. He's calling for violence. Anyway.
And a great web browser. Plus, new features keep getting added. Call the toll-free number and you'll receive your free startup kit and 10 free hours to look around. It's worth a try. You'll see.
10 free hours, and it will only take 10 free hours for LimeWire to download the MP3 that you're trying to download.
All kinds of
Speak of the devil. Speak of the devil.
people.
Remember Tower Records.
All kinds.
Tower Records. See, that's what I'm talking about, right? This was such a huge industry in the 90s. And that's partly why they made so many movies about this kind of stuff, right? Well, I'm saying, like, 90s culture, it sort of rotates around the music industry. And, man, just think how different the music industry basically kind of doesn't exist at all like it did. I mean, it was like a giant behemoth in the 1980s and 90s. And after the internet, with, interestingly, Napster, LimeWire, I mean, that just demolished the music industry. And I remember when they put Tower Records in Nashville. And oddly enough, the Tower Records in Nashville actually kind of looked like Empire Records in the movie, which is pretty wild. If anybody, we probably got some Nashville bros in the house. Y'all remember Tower Records in the 90s over there by Vanderbilt?
The music.
At Tower, save on Black Grape. On sale just $12.99
Black Grape?
CD.
The heck is Black Grape?
Also just $12.99 CD. Garbage.
Speaking of, that's funny. I was looking through, I was trying to pull out 90s CDs, and I was like, garbage. Oh, here I found it. It's a classic 90s. Everybody's CDs from the 90s are all crushed up, too. They're all busted. But, I mean, that's a legit 90s CD, right? When you open it up and the freaking thing that holds it in is all busted, right? But I actually have that one. No, actually, I have Garbage Greatest Hits. So I don't have that.
And for only $11.99.
You know, it's funny. I didn't like Garbage in the 90s, which is, it's odd, because I liked a couple songs, but I actually like Garbage now way better than I did in the 90s. I'm not a huge Garbage fan. I just like them better now than I did.
CD, Lisa Loeb and 9 Stories.
Dude, every girl in the 90s had that damn Lisa Loeb album right there. You see that right there? Every girl. In fact, we were playing music videos from the 90s for fun the other night, and this comes on. Jamie knows like every word to Lisa Loeb. She's like, she goes into like a trance, and the MK Ultra programming of the words just spit out like perfectly. I'm like, how do you remember every word from this stupid song? Well, for those that don't know, in the 1990s, young people out there, I don't believe you, C-Dotspiracy. If you didn't have this CD in the 90s, it's because you're like, you were too young, right? So you're like a millennial or something. and you didn't have this CD because you were listening to, I don't know, Kids Bop or some, kid thing or something. That's the only way that you didn't have that CD. Every chick had that CD. Even the alt chicks, the Manic Pixie Dream Girls of the 1990s had this stupid Lisa Loeb CD. And that's because we were tortured in the 90s. This is something that the youth will not understand today. In the 1990s, yes, there were tapes and CDs. However, if you worked at a job, there was the radio and whatever the boss chose to play. And most of the time in most businesses, that was the radio. And the radio, which I think it still exists. I've been told the radio still exists. I mean, Jamie says that when she drives across the country, she turns on the radio. And I'm like, the radio? The heck is that? That thing, that still exists? And she's like, yes, I hear top 40. So I'm like, top 40? That exists? Radio exists? And then, which by the way, does MTV exist still? Is that still a thing? I mean, I haven't had cable TV since I was living at home at age 20 or something, right? And I wasn't living at home because I was a loser. I was living at home because I was going to college. So the last time I remember watching cable TV was at my mom's house in the 2003 or 4, right? Does MTV still exist? Is it on like cable? Does that still exist? Who even has cable? Boomers, grandmas? That's about it, right? I mean, cable companies. Do you still get cable somewhere? I have no idea. Literally have no idea. But I do know the radio still exists. And Jamie says that she writes anyway. But you were tortured with this in the 1990s, right? So if you're going to work, you're gonna hear top 40 every day. That means I went in the back to get high, sat on the roof and just cried and felt sorry for myself. Let her cry as the tears roll down that way. Let her cry. And if the sun comes up tomorrow, I don't even know, but yeah, do you know what I went through in the 1990s? Speaking of, Jamie said, what about Sheryl Crow? Jamie has a special distaste for Sheryl Crow, which I did. Like I was like, what CDs from the 90s are in this CD stack over here? Oh yeah, look at that. Remember this damn thing? This was everywhere. And what was interesting was, why would you don't even have to buy the CD, because if you just turn the radio on, you will hear this stupid song probably 20 times in a day. So is there somebody who's not Sheryl Crow maxed by hearing it 20 times that they need to get the CD to hear it again? Right? I'm serious. Jamie, you don't even know what it was like. Did you have radio at work in the 90s, Jamie? Did you have to hear this all day long, every day? It's like some kind of weird freaking Clockwork Orange thing where I'm stuck in a freaking fluorescent tomb, as Malcolm in the Middle says. Soul-sucking fluorescent tomb where I have to listen to Sheryl Crow all day. I like a good beer buzz early in the morning, and Billy likes to peel the labels off his boss butt. With his big fingers, watching matches burn down to his big fingers to the bone, right? I mean, oh. And I don't even hate Sheryl Crow as much as Jamie hates Sheryl Crow. Because actually, the only reason that Sheryl Crow gets 1 point of props is that I like her James Bond song. That's it. The rest of it, all I wanna do, have some fun as the sun comes up over, what's that? Santa Monica Boulevard. Where are we doing our show at, y'all? At the dang place where Sheryl Crow is singing about. Santa Monica Boulevard, y'all. Get your tickets to the event. Santa Monica Boulevard. Sheryl Crow was singing to us, y'all. What were you doing in the 90s? I'll tell you what I was doing in the 90s. I was doing this right here. That's what I was doing in the 90s. That wasn't the only thing I was listening to in the 90s, but you're like, what, Jay, what do you write? So as soon as I get out of work and turn off that damn pop radio listening to Hootie and Sheryl Crow, that mom music, right? If you listen to Sheryl, turn that mom music off. Put on some damn Prodigy. So when I hop in my car, I'll put on some Prodigy. That's what I was listening to. Dude, I love this CD so much in the 90s. The first Prodigy CD was probably one of my favorite high school CDs. So that's what I was listening to. And actually, I listened to some of this the other day. I was like, there's some pretty good techno songs on here. I mean, it still holds up. A lot of techno from the 90s I can't listen to. It sounds like garbage. But the Hordes of Jericho, Out of Space, I mean, those are pretty good songs. Anyway. But where was I at with these commercials? I lost my place. Here we go. No, that's not it. Lisa Loeb. See, Lisa Loeb sent me on a tangent.
The tower difference is selection. A night at Blockbuster.
Oh.
That was a great romance.
Blockbuster. Is that Claudia Schiffer? So, no. This is misleading advertising. You're not going to... Sheryl Crow is not... I mean, Claudia Schiffer's not waiting on you at a freaking Blockbuster, dude. This is a lie. By the way, I don't even think Claudia Schiffer is that attractive. She's got like a skeleton face. I don't know. It's weird looking, but...
Yeah?
I'm not ashamed to say I cried at the end.
So it is Claudia Schiffer. So this dude he's trying to spit game in the rom-com section at Blockbuster. Look how different ads are, right? In the 1990s, it was normal for a dude to think, oh, I'm going to go to freaking Blockbuster and spit some game. I might even meet Claudia Schiffer in the rom-com section. But I mean, this is dumb, but it's not woke. I mean, right? This is like normal human reaction. Actually,
Comedy's good. My friends say I'm a pretty funny guy.
Really?
So, do you want to pick up some movies, get together later?
see, he's like, I mean, I got to give him some points for boldness, right? That's pretty bold, but that's kind of weak game, right? This is not going to work. I mean, I don't know how it's going to go here in the Blockbuster PUA scene. I mean, actually, right, a PUA, right? If we had Frank TJ Mackey here, right, he would say that going to Blockbuster, it would probably be a great place to spit your game, especially if you could recommend a good movie or something. But I'm gonna predict that this doesn't work. By the way, Claudia Schiffer's got some jacked up rebel teeth like myself, which makes me not feel so bad that I got a tooth in rebellion. I got a Marxist tooth trying to stage a rebellion in my mouth right there. Hey, Claudia Schiffer got the same thing going on.
You want to get together with me tonight and have some fun? Here, Arm.
Whoa. Oh, she's just negging him, though, because he thought for a second he was going to get her number. But she plopped down in his lap her workout VHS. So she's basically just negging him.
Legs, abs, and butt.
Oh, damn.
And when you catch your breath.
So, yeah, So guys out there, you're trying to learn how to talk to women. This is a tough one. I don't know what to tell you on this one. If Claudia Schiffer starts stacking her VHSs in your lap, you might as well move on. So, anyway, what do y'all think? That was a weird Blockbuster ad. But, again, notice how different ads are. Where it's like just a random white dude hitting on a model. The audacity, right? And thinking that this is normal. The audacity, right?
Blockbuster Video. Check out our huge selection and pick up the Claudia Schiffer workout series. Make it a Blockbuster night.
Chew on this. The average American eats 5 times a day. 5 times.
5 times a day. Well, this is a big problem right here. The average American eating 5 times a day of 90s food, which is basically all cartoon characters, Subway and pizza, right? I'm trying to remember what we ate in the 90s. It was just garbage. And that's right. Unfortunately, that's right when the food started getting really, really corporate. Yeah, corporate, just freaking looks like a science, like you read the back of it's a science project, right? It's freaking chemistry class notes when you're reading the ingredients. And yeah, Domino, exactly. Jamie said Domino's. Dude, in the 90s, you had Domino's number memorized. I'm serious. She's in there laughing, and everybody from the 90s knows it too. You didn't even have to. You didn't have to write it down. You're like, dude, I know that when I'm drunk. I don't even have to. I remember the number. I know the Domino's number. I don't know my grandmother's number, right? Dude, do I remember the Noid? I've talked about the Noid on countless live streams. Avoid the Noid. And by the way, Domino's got sued over the Noid. Can you believe that? That's so crazy. It was a weird lawsuit too, because it was a guy who claimed that the usage of the word Noid caused him to be traumatized and suicidal because people at work started calling him the Noid. I mean, so he got his feelings hurt. And he won. I'm not joking. He won a lawsuit against. But that was another thing that started happening in the 1990s, which kind of overlaps. I'm not joking. Kind of overlaps with social justice stuff, because there started being these lawsuits that you hear about in the 1990s of people suing people and winning for weird, bizarre stuff like that. Like so and so was traumatized by something and they won $1 million lawsuit. Like, what? Traumatized by the stupid Domino's logo? That makes absolutely no sense. But maybe that was setting a precedent for the corrupting of the justice system. Not like it wasn't always corrupt. You know what I mean? To the mega levels of corrupt like it is today. Remember that? Let's talk about pogs. Let's talk about sex, baby.
And only brushes twice. Chewing Trident after eating can...
Trident, by the way, was nasty-ass gum even in the 90s. That gum was garbage. I never liked that stuff. Trident tasted like fake cinnamon, and it lost all of its sweetness and flavor within like 30 seconds.
5 times a day. Yep, Trident helps you fight cavities.
Helps you fight cavities. But by the way, this is right when I think this is around the time they started putting all the fake sweeteners and the aspartame in there, right? Because even into the 90s, believe it or not, in the 90s, there were a lot of candies don't ever eat candy anyway, but I'm just making a point. Candy's garbage. But even in the 90s, there were candies that still used actual sugar. Can you believe that? But it was in the 90s, if I recall, that everything started being replaced by high fructose corn syrup and aspartame. Isn't that right? I mean, it started creeping in the 80s. And I remember news reports, because it was like a big deal when they started using aspartame. And it had to do with Donald Rumsfeld got a law passed. Remember that? But that set precedent for basically everyone in America's diet just being just total trash. Just not even food. Not real food. Just to like weird things coming out of a beaker or something, right? From a science fiction novel. Just not food. Oh, another thing we noticed too, and we'll get into this in the stream, is that you see this guy walking around, right, with his camera doing photography. This was another thing that was really big in the 90s. All the Gen X people, they wanted to go to art school and film school. For some reason, this was a huge trend. I almost went to art school. I mean, again, I'm kind of at that inflection point. But I'm glad I didn't go to art school ultimately, but I came really close to going. I went and visited Memphis College of Art and looked around at different art schools, and I kind of liked the idea of art school rather than the traditional 4-year college. But I think that especially when you watch Reality Bites, you'll notice how prevalent this was. And I had tons of friends in the 90s too that went to art school and to film school. Is that still a thing? Did people go to art school, and is film school even a thing anymore? I don't even know. But yeah. Odd.
In a car.
Troops in Bosnia this year. The warring factions there were recounted.
What are we doing in Bosnia? I don't get it. Just once. I wish those losers would listen to what I have to say about the way this country is run.
There's a bus.
What the?
The MTV bus.
This is weird. So there's a guy driving, bitching about the war when Clinton had us bombing, right? Bosnia, Herzegovina, and all that, Serbia. Now, of course, nobody in the 90s who was, of the Gen X coming, nobody in the 90s knew anything about any of that stuff. We had no idea. We heard news stories that were bombing Serbia and Bosnia, but we had absolutely no clue what any of that's about, why it's being bombed or anything. So it's odd that you would see ads about people, especially the MTV crowd, being concerned with these kinds of things, right? Like the cause celeb, right? Because people didn't really know any of this stuff. Nobody knew anything about geopolitics in the 1990s. That's what I'm trying to say. So this is an odd ad.
The Choose or Lose bus. It's on tour. Talking to the candidates.
Oh, Choose or Lose. Interesting. I forgot about this. So they had this idea, I remember this now, in the 1990s, that they would have this bus that would go around, and they were trying to reach the youth, right? And the candidates would speak to the youth, and you get informed on the topics and ask the politicians questions. I totally forgot about this. This is one of those relics from the 1990s that everybody's forgot about, just like Rock the Vote, right? Choose. I bet nobody even remembers this. You see what I'm saying? Oh yeah, here it is. Choose or Lose. Look at this. So this was, again, an MTV campaign. Now, I know we know that there was certain, Sumner Redstone and people like this had a lot to do with MTV, but it'd be interesting to see the actual sort of history of MTV. Like who came up with this? What's the whole origins of it? I don't actually know. I've never looked into the history of MTV and who came up with it and all that. But I think they saw very clearly that this was, this was going to be a thing to definitely program a generation. So remember Kurt Loder? It was weird too. A lot of those VJs, okay, so they started calling them VJs. Some of them were interesting, right? Remember, what's the one that's the libertarian girl now? And then we have the guy that does No Agenda Show, right? We talked about him. Anyway, point being, but I think those people are cool. I'm not dissing them or whatever. I'm not dissing Adam what's his face, but like Kurt Loder, this guy is so boring. They always chose these really boring people. And then they had Pauly. Remember when Pauly Shore was very promoted on MTV? And I think he was even a VJ for a while. And something I didn't know until the other day is that Pauly Shore's mom, Mitzi, ran the Comedy Store, which I'd heard that a long time ago. I just forgot about it. But she kind of was like the West Coast decider of who would be moving up in the comedy world. Did you know that? Because she could kind of make or break you with whether she gave you various spots at the Comedy Store. And even Sam Tripoli can like go into the history of all that, right? Because he comes out of the Comedy Store scene, and there was like these famous rivalries where Mitzi wouldn't allow Jerry Seinfeld to play there. They didn't like each other, this kind of stuff. But this is like the Pauly Shore era of MTV, which was an odd thing.
Bush at the helm of a decaying economy is currently suffering the lowest approval rating.
And it's turned up all the way.
Just some Republicans worried and opposition Democrats excited. Most of the major presidential aspirants have been spending flesh-pressing time in...
So I forgot MTV would do these news breaks, right? Like any of the idiots watching MTV knew anything about politics. But for some reason, MTV, I guess it had to be with the Democrat thing, right? Like they really wanted to target and get the youth to vote for Bill Clinton. I mean, that's the essence of all of this. And also, I would add, too, that there was an interesting targeting of the 1990s that occurred in the Bill Clinton administration, which she goes into. So a lot of curious things going on in the 1990s.
New Hampshire lately, in anticipation of that state's presidential primary election, the first in the nation, February 18. Because the New Hampshire primary tends to weed out weaker candidates, it has a political importance that transcends the state's relatively small size.
Oh, so they're trying to tell you why New Hampshire is important for the primaries, and basically saying, please go vote for Bill Clinton, right? Like, we don't want another George Bush Sr. By the way, Bill Clinton had reportedly smoked weed, right? And he's like into sex or something. So isn't he a lot cooler? Like Bill Clinton's been on stage with pop stars, right? I mean, literally like that level of stuff.
Figures have been dropping off remarkably in recent...
For pure political reasons, I need the help of the people in this state.
I never used to take an interest in this. I never even voted, but I went yesterday to register to vote because I want to make sure he doesn't get reelected.
So there you go, right? I mean, first of all, it's just odd to think that MTV was so interested in getting young people to vote. And it was just this thin veneer, though, of to vote for Bill Clinton, right? I mean, you can see it right there.
I believe.
Not that I care about W. Senior. I'm not saying W. Senior was good, but you just notice that the close alliance between the Democrats, even at this time, and the pop stars, right? Because I guarantee you there's absolutely no pop star. Your only option as a pop star in the 1990s is to be apolitical or to be part of the Democratic Party machine. That's it. There absolutely was no pop stars that, I mean, I don't know, maybe some kind of gay Christian thing like Carmen or something, right? Like there's almost no way to be popular outside of the machine, the industry, right? Which is so weird because all of this stuff is predicated on being against the man. All the alt scene stuff, right? Oh, but I forgot what I was going to say about all the Stanford research stuff in terms of the alt scene. Damn, it's hot in here. I don't think it's accidental that Stanford research was pushing alternative lifestyles, and then we get alternative music in the 90s. And guess what else was a huge push in the 1990s that many people overlook? Skittles. 90s is when we start getting MTV, music videos, and major networks for the first time making major characters in the shows Skittles. So 90s was a huge step forward for SJW type stuff, woke social justice stuff. And you can thank Bill Clinton and other entities infiltrating and utilizing Bill Clinton in the 1990s, as this book details, for a lot of that. Not all of it, but a lot of it.
Make America great again.
What? Did I just discover that MAGA is from Bill Clinton? What?
Because I want to make sure he doesn't get reelected.
I believe that together we can make America great again.
Because I am...
What?
Because I want to make sure he doesn't get reelected.
I believe that together we can make America great again.
Because I live in the United States.
It's gonna be great. It's gonna be wonderful. Gonna do your lips in a square. Gonna make America great again. Thank you, Bill Clinton. Do your lips into a square. Wow. Anyway.
Is that I abide by the laws, so I should have a say in what the laws are. 18
Yes.
to 24-year-olds have the worst voter turnout.
Remember her, Tabitha Soren? Again, another one of these weird, boring cutout people with no personality. Kurt Loder and Tabitha Soren, no personality at all. But they're MTV VJs and reporters. I mean, at least Pauly Shore is like
hard for many of them to believe
a quacky loon dude, right? Do you remember how Pauly Shore, what's up, buddy? But I mean, Pauly Shore acted like just a total spurg. But that's more entertaining than these like cut out stiff weirdos that were the VJs.
When in fact, their age group is 25 million strong. But unfortunately, only 9.5 million voted in the last presidential.
Yeah, so we see what this is all about. So all this is about is the Democratic Party desperately needing to get idiot teenage MTV watchers to go vote for Bill Clinton. That's all that is. It's crazy. So, newsflash, it's not crazy that the Democratic Party wants Taylor Swift to beg everybody to come vote for Joe Biden. Okay? I mean, can people not figure this out? I mean, I'm showing you that this was happening in 1992, dude.
Require a driver.
Anyway, enough of that nonsense. So why are these people? What is it? This ad makes no sense. Choose or lose campaign, and they're the guy's driving around with his girlfriend arguing over bombing Bosnia and Herzegovina, so they need to go talk to the politician to figure out what's really going on. This is so dumb.
Is going to go all over the whole country and explain it to everyone.
Choose or lose, man. 1996. See, and this is, but what freaking Bill Clinton is who chose to bomb Bosnia. I mean, he didn't make that decision. He's a freaking puppet, but. If you're going to be against the Bosnia, Herzegovina, Serbia, Clinton bombing campaign, we got to get Slobodan Milosevic because he's a Hitler. But, I mean, Clinton's the one who did that, dummy. I mean, it's like super dumb, right? But anyway, that's the propaganda. That's the level of what we're talking about.
At Thomas Lincoln Mercury, we promise you friendly, personal.
Even Robert Baer, remember him? CIA, CNN guy. Remember he even wrote a thing about how that was all just to destroy and restructure and make money off of the bombing. I mean, even Robert Baer admits that. It's like.
At Krug's Big and Tall on the principles that every man should be able to find quality clothing and the service he needs. Krug's has the...
This Big and Tall ad, what the heck? What's that with all the mullets, dude? I mean, you got this gay guy over here on the left with a freaking, who's that? What's that video game where the guy's got the big blonde comb over where, what's that? Remember that? Street Fighter. Guile. So you got gay Guile from Street Fighter over here on the left. And then you got a dude with a mullet in 1996 selling big and tall. I mean, this is weird because mullets were already out in the 1990s. So this is an odd ad here with all these guys having mullets. They're out of date with what was actually popular in 1996. Oh yeah, people don't understand this either. If you're, millennial and younger. So in the 1990s, you couldn't, like if you went somewhere, you couldn't get a hold of anybody, right? So you had to have what was called calling cards. And that meant you went and put money on this, like a stupid little, it looked like a credit card. And then you scratched off the number on the back. And sometimes you have to buy like 5 of these, right? It's a total ripoff too, because they were like $30 or something. And then when you fly, go somewhere, not even just flying, like if you go, 3 states away, you got to use these stupid calling cards. It was a huge hassle. And a lot of times if you couldn't find a payphone or what, like you have to find a phone booth. People don't know about phone booths. In fact, I was driving somewhere on a road trip a couple of years ago and I saw a phone booth. And it was crazy, dude. I thought I was in. Now, it had a phone in there. It didn't work. But just to see a phone booth with a payphone in there, it was like, did I step into 1993? What the heck is going on? Actually kind of cool that they left the phone booth there. That's pretty neat.
In only 2.5 years.
And it wasn't like an antiques place where they're preserving the phone booth. It was like a gas station, shopping center, and a phone booth. It was crazy.
Saved America over $100 million. It's the number more people are dialing to save money on collect calls. From any phone.
So if you dated a girl in another state, right? If you had a long distance relationship, you had to use this kind of stupid calling cards and calling collect and all this stuff.
Anywhere in the U.S. 1-800-COLLECT instead of 0. It's the way we call.
Look at those 2 towers there. It was New York in the 90s with the 2 towers there.
Collect instead of 0. It's the way we call collect today.
Simple pimple control. I could do with.
This is another thing that was, you always would see Noxzema and pimple ads everywhere, right? All of this weird facial cleansing, cleaning, maintenance. Just like the 90s were crazy with hair products and face products and body washes and body sprays. And this is where we started. Yeah, I just said Noxzema everywhere. Remember the Noxzema girl, right? You got this chick was just famous from being the Noxzema girl. And she ended up in, she wasn't in Scream. She was in one of those Scream-like horror movies with, what's her face that Jamie Kennedy's ex? What's her name? Who? Yes, Jennifer Love Hewitt. Remember, she's in that horror movie with the Noxzema girl. Remember that? Huh? And the Noxzema girl is the villain. Rebecca Gayheart. That's a name right there. The Noxzema girl. So she, just from being in this stupid ad, this is how big toxic face products were in the 1990s. So big that you could become a freaking movie star from being in a Noxzema ad. Right? And I remember the ad. I remember when this ad would play on TV all the time. Let's see here. Let's watch this.
Tell me about this girl. Well, I've known her.
Oh, so look. Normal dating. Normal dating. Tell me about this girl. Oh, yeah, she's cute. She uses facial products.
Wow, but what? It's weird. I never really noticed her. So what made you? I don't know. Now she's cute.
For help.
Well, you never noticed her, and now you do. What happened? I don't know. I guess she got rid of her acne from using face acid.
Skin wash with Noxzema. You can feel Noxzema tingle as
But that's not the Noxzema girl. That's a
the
different
deep
chick.
cleans. It
Is her face going to change when she washes off?
grabs out oil and dirt, won't
No.
overstrip. Even the leading soap strips moisture
That's
out,
not the
leaves skin
Noxzema
tight
girl.
and dry. Noxzema helps protect your skin, leaving it soft and healthy looking.
Do I know her? My sister.
Noxzema.
Wah, wah, wah. Yeah, sorry, dude. I'm just trying to bone your sister, by the way. That was weird. But that's not the Noxzema girl. That's the ad that says Noxzema girls get noticed. But that's not Rebecca Gayheart. So maybe she's like a later Noxzema girl. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, this is it. Okay, so this is a year. Okay. So this is... No, she was the first Noxzema girl. 91.
Hi, it's me. We're meeting at 10:30. And guess what? Kevin's going to be there.
Nuh-uh. Whoa, Kevin's going? Uh-oh. Better put some acid on your face. This chick doesn't even have a zit. What's she like?
Thing people see when they
got no zits at all.
So why use anything but Noxzema? It's better than soap. Better for your face.
It's better than soap and better for your face? How about just don't put anything on your face that
Dissolves oil.
is acidic and nasty or whatever? Noxzema probably still exists. There's probably still people putting this on their face. Like people still using hairspray.
Without over drying. Soap doesn't. Noxzema. Every time you wash, every day.
That is the Noxzema girl.
All your life.
Yeah, so she was just in this ad and ended up being a movie star, right? But that's how big toxic creams and, unctions and ointments from the 90s were. We got $1 billion ungent. We got $1 billion unction market racket going here in the 1990s. Where am I at? We having fun tonight? This is fun. It's like a walk down memory lane tonight.
The world keeps burning forward.
Yeah, we got a little problem with the hotel. Some kind of...
Wait, this is not... This is a different... I've lost my thing. Where's my original thing? MTV commercials. Here we go.
Simple. Supersized Stridex medicated pads are bigger. They're all bigger.
See, they were all about zits in the
Bigger than
90s.
Oxy pads.
Remember those? I remember those pads. I had those freaking things. We wouldn't even have had... We didn't even need this crap if the diet of the 1990s wasn't a bunch of fake food. It's the 90s diet that is the cause of the big ointment industrial complex trying to sell us all this crap that rots our face off.
Bigger than Clearasil pads. Extra big to clean deep down dirt and oil.
Cool.
Nothing without a prescription is stronger than maximum strength Stridex.
Strong.
And nothing's more soothing than sensitive skin with aloe. And only
Pads. It's like it's marketed like maxi pads for dudes or something. Men's pads.
Stridex has super scrub for oily skin.
Super tough.
Choose any supersized Stridex pad for simple pimple control.
Simple.
There is one thing as mayor that I will never get over.
Oh, there's a forgotten movie.
Didn't get there, but I wouldn't worry.
Western Union, the fastest way to send money worldwide.
Now, I was talking earlier about feminism in the ads, and interestingly, tonight, the majority of the ads have actually been kind of normal, except for like just the corporate toxic crap. But, last time we did that 90s stream, we found a bunch of 90s ads that were pushing feminism, which is really bizarre. Like weird jeans ads, button fly jeans ads where it's like the dudes are all worshiping the women or something. Just weird stuff like that.
Marriage? Are you sure, man?
Yeah, everything's gonna be alright.
No more women. Time
Time to burn the little old black book. No more blondes, brunettes, redheads. No more hanging out with the guys. Maybe Steve can play quarterback.
When just a cold one isn't cold enough, crack open the refreshing taste of cold filter.
Oh, I thought it was going to be a Zima, dude. I was like, crack open Zima. It was going to be a Zima. It's a nasty Miller beer. By the way, thank you guys for the super chats tonight. We'll look at a couple of these. Having fun tonight with our Gen X Overlord stream. We're trying to see into the mind. Trying to get a look, a peering into the mind state of the Gen X Overlords, taking over the reins of the Boomer Empire as they pass the torch. What will our Overlords be like? Well, we're looking into it, into that mind frame, that mindset from the ads of the 1990s via MTV, the chief mechanism for culture control for the 1990s Gen X come-uppers. We're looking into their mind.
Thou wilt say I.
All right, we don't need that.
Control us with their
Oh, here we go. Here we go. So it's gonna be a shoe ad. That's all like social justice. Watch this. No, well now wait a minute. This isn't. Now this is interesting because this looks like, is this tattoos? Because in the 90s, tattoos were not in, right? And I guess because I'm a product of the 90s, I don't have tattoos. I don't hate you if you have tattoos. I'm not judging you. Everybody gets all sensitive, and I've just never liked tattoos. I just don't get it. But I mean, I'm not bothered by it. My feelings aren't hurt. I'm not judging you if you do tattoos or whatever. But tattoos were not a thing in the 90s, so that's interesting. Oh, it's not a tattoo. It's like black and white, dude. We're all one, bro.
This is my
How can we sell corporate basketball shoes that have nothing to do with race? We'll market it to black and white people. We'll make the shoe black and white. It's so stupid.
Condoms, man! Repression, man! Just another tool of the establishment just to bring us down! They say we gotta use them, but who are they? Well, they want to control us with their condoms, but not me, man, because I ain't wearing one and letting...
Chic, use one or get none.
Well, these are cool. I mean, I'd use them. I'd like them and I'd use them all.
Now, this is interesting because in the 90s, the 90s went condom crazy, dude. This was like, there was these campaigns and there was this everywhere. I'm talking about if you would go to a concert, they would be passing out condoms at the concert. Literally. For example, I remember 1997, I went to see YouTube. Yes, I apologize because Boner is, Boner's like the greatest douchebag of all time, right? So, but in the 1990s, everybody liked U2. It wasn't a big deal. And U2 was passing out pop tour condoms. So, I mean, the 90s just went condom crazy. There were condoms coming in the mail. Condoms were given out at the high school. Condoms just out the wazoo. Condoms got basically. So this is kind of accurate, but this was an odd ad because this guy's like, the man wants us to wear condoms, which is kind of true. Like, this dude doesn't even get his, crazy grunge alt scene rant is actually accurate. The blast? Oh, that's Reebok. Never mind.
Condoms, man! Repression, man! Just another tool of the establishment.
By the way, he's acting exactly like Troy Dyer acts in a lot of his rants in Reality Bites, right? So he's literally just like Ethan Hawke in Reality Bites. And he's got that super, you know, that's a bona fide, genuine Keanu Reeves 90s cut right there.
Bring us down!
I had that same haircut in the 90s, dude.
They say we gotta use them.
And the ripped jeans and the shirt tied around your waist. That's maximum 90s right there.
But who are they? Well, they want.
That's actually a good question, though. Like, this conspiracy 90s kid is actually kind of on the right track. And wait a minute. Why is the whole system wanting me to wear condoms? Right? But then it's funny because it's almost like the ad's mocking him. Right? Because this is how he's controlled. So he's actually asking the right questions. And then the chick comes out and is like, if you don't use the sheet condom, you're not getting any. And he's like, okay, whatever, dude. Yes, good point in the chat. I forgot, too. They went AIDS crazy in the 90s. I kind of think now that the AIDS madness of the 90s actually was to promote the condom stuff, because a lot of that was getting people used to sterilized sex, right? Sterilization, free love. It's like the 90s version of free love. All of that goes together. Because there was this irrational fear in the 1990s that everybody was getting AIDS. I remember this story came out like in 1998, right? And even in 1998, I knew this was bullshit. This was fake. There's no way this is true. There was this story going around that a high school in Nashville, that like hundreds of people had tested positive for AIDS at a high school. I mean, what? Hundreds of people have AIDS? So they were pushing these stories. This was probably freaking Fauci's made up crap, right? Because if you guys remember, Fauci was running the 90s AIDS propaganda stuff. So this is all Fauci stuff. Literally.
Tell them all they got the AIDS. It's all going around. It's the 5 billion teenagers got AIDS, and it's jizzing on everybody. There's all the AIDS everywhere. Get them to wear the condoms too. Put your mask on. You got AIDS,
right? It's the same stuff. I'm not joking. Look that up, by the way. Fauci's psyop of AIDS in the 90s is all the R&D info that he used for the mask psyop of the last few years. Boom. Right there. So that's ironic, though, because this guy, and this is crazy, right? This guy's asking, he's like right up to the point of figuring out what's going on, and then he becomes a total idiot.
Condoms, but not me, man, because I ain't wearing one and letting Sheik
use one or get none.
Well, these are cool. I mean, I'd use them. I'd like them, and I'd use them all the time.
Sheik, get some.
Thank you, Mr. Sheik.
So he thanks the man, right? Isn't that crazy?
Some stations tell you that their news van or helicopter makes a great newscast. But no van ever gave you the inside scoop on a story. And what helicopter ever uncovered a scam that preyed on your children? At 2 News, we know it's not the equipment. It's how you use it. It's people who know.
Good grief. What the heck kind of boomer news is this? Is the weirdest boomer ad I've ever seen.
People who know their way around. Smart reporters. New York to the bone.
Oh, so this is out of New York. Interesting. Yeah, so basically giant CIA broadcasting, CBS, right? ABC.
When they read the New York Times, some people begin with world news.
Another big CIA controlled organization, New York Times.
Crossword puzzle or theater, and others turn right to the business section.
I thought after you succeeded in business, you got to retire to Florida.
That's weird. So Ferris Bueller, right? 80s rebel. Quintessential Gen X, by the way. I should have mentioned, yeah. Ferris Bueller Matthew Broderick, another quintessential Gen X, definitely. But now he's like this system. It's just interesting. So he's moved from being Ferris Bueller, the rebellious, quipping teenager, sassy, smarter than the system guy, to now he reads the New York Times and sits there in a sweater. This is interesting.
The New York Times. Read what you like.
But I don't feel like eating dinner at 4 in the afternoon.
That brought back memories right there. Seeing that satellite spinning and hearing that sound. I haven't heard that in probably 20 years. That's crazy.
MTV News.
By the way, if you're young, if you're a young dude, when you get older, you'll this will happen to you. You'll be like, there will be something that disappears for 20 years, and then you'll hear a sound, and you'll be like, oh, wow. Man, I haven't heard that sound in like 20 years. That's crazy. And it'll bring up, you'll have this like flood of memories of stuff from 20 years ago. It's crazy. The same thing happened. I was reading about, I was watching this video. I wasn't reading.
Reviews and making.
And this guy starts talking about Zima. Do you remember Zima? And the only thing about it was just, not that I care that much about Zima. It's just that Zima had it's just a really distinct taste.
Simplify your closet, not your style. This is the best
maps.
And it's not even it's not even that it's a good taste. It's just that, like, I haven't tasted anything like that in 20 years. And I was watching this guy's video about Zima. And I remembered the taste of Zima. Isn't that crazy? Because it doesn't taste like anything else. Like you'll never have that taste again unless some weirdo like stored away a cooler of Zimas. I was actually thinking today, I was like, can I buy a case of Zimas that somebody's got stashed in a fridge at a bar somewhere? You know somebody's got Zimas somewhere in a bar. I don't even want a Zima. I just want to taste the taste of Zima, which I can remember. And then I will remember a bunch of stuff. Because there was a bunch of parties and a bunch of stupid crap that we did drinking Zima, which I don't even know why, but we just did. Is it good? Not really. But it's just like there's a thing from the 90s that will never be again. And to taste it will bring back a lot of these memories from the 90s.
Hit store shelves in 1994.
By the way, I've never seen Zima in a can, so I don't know where that was. All we ever saw was those bottles.
A clear malt drink was in a category all their own. Riding the trend of other clear beverages like Crystal Pepsi, Zima...
By the way, Crystal Pepsi was gross, and that lasted like one summer, right? They got rid of that quick. But Zima went for a few years, and this guy makes an interesting point. He says that they poured like $50 million into advertising Zima, which was everywhere in the 90s. And it paid off because within a couple years, like, it was successful and it made good money for whoever made Zima. But then it died off because he says something like it never really attracted the beer drinking audience. So I don't know who this was geared towards, because, you know, if you're a 17-year-old dude and you're getting Zima, it's not because you want to necessarily drink Zima. It's because if you're trying to get girls to come hang out, girls will drink a Zima. They're not going to drink Bud Light or Miller Lite or whatever. They're not going to drink that. They'll drink a Zima because it's closer to, you know, it's closer to a wine cooler or something like that. It's basically a Sprite. Yeah, but the thing is, Jamie's like, well, wouldn't you drink wine coolers and bottles? Yeah, so every girl in high school, the cheerleaders, right, they're going to drink wine coolers. But no dude, look, in high school, you can't just blow $50 on drinks, okay? You got to be smart about this. Because you only got like $20, maybe, right, for the weekend. So you got to figure out how to be economical with your purchase. You can't buy wine coolers and Zima and beer. So let's find something that a dude and a girl can drink. That's boom, you got it, Zima. Plus, a lot of people, even dudes are not used to drinking when you're, 17, 16. So you kind of want something in between, right? Which, for guys, usually guys want to get liquor. But liquor's kind of hard to get. So, but you can get an average bum, a hobo, right? You give a hobo $5, he'll go buy you Zima. That's the trick. That's what you do.
Its parent company, Coors, invested $50 million marketing the drink during its first year. The advertisements paid off, with the product selling really well during the first couple of years of production. Unfortunately, it failed to attract the beer-drinking consumers, which were mostly men, and the drink completely fizzled out by the early 2000s.
So interesting. So it didn't end up being a girl drink, right? I haven't drink alcohol in like 6 years, so I don't know what people. But don't White Claw, is that what women drink now because it's not carby or whatever, low carbs or something? I don't know. So basically, this is like White Claw of the 1990s. Basically, is what this is. But I've never had a White Claw, so I don't know whether it's any good or not or what. But I do distinctly remember the taste of a Zima, and for a few split seconds, I was like, I would actually like to taste a really cold Zima right now. Just because it's a 90s memory. And for no other reason.
According to Hollywood's Daily Variety, Alicia Silverstone has been tapped to play Batgirl and Uma Thurman to play the...
So this is what they thought was news. This is crazy. So news in 1996 from Kurt Loder was that Alicia Silverstone was... Catwoman, and Uma Thurman is Poison Ivy.
Lethal-lipped villainous Poison Ivy in the third Batman sequel, which, like the second one, Batman Forever, will be directed by Joel Schumacher. No official confirmation yet of this report, nor another report that Demi Moore and...
I'm kind of surprised we're not seeing as many feminist ads as the last time I found MTV commercials. So, I mean, there's a whole bunch of these videos and just collections of these. There's tons and tons of hours of this. So I don't remember where that video was, but that one time I did a 90s stream, it was like... It was like non-stop propaganda in the ads, just total feminism, social justice out the butt.
The Poison Ivy part was theirs. That's the news for now. More on this and other stories throughout the day here on MTV.
I never saw it coming.
The heck is this? A lot of forgotten movies from the 90s too, right? Broken Arrow with was that Al Pacino and what's his face? I can't stand his face. John Travolta. That's a forgotten movie. What is this? Never heard of this. No idea what this is. Looks like a lot of money in it. I'm gonna get dinged if I... Jeff Bridges. Director of Alien. Oh, I remember that. I never watched that, though. That's just nasty. Clean up your house. Clean it. Clean your room, bucko. Were we nasty in the 90s or something? I'm trying to remember. Like, was the average household nasty? I'm trying to remember. I think in the early 90s, my room was pretty nasty. I think like 1993, my room was probably like this dude's room, right? I was probably pretty nasty around 14. But as you get older, you want your room to be cool, you know what I mean? Like 14, you don't care about your room. It's you've got freaking sandwiches under the bed. You've got chicken nuggets in your pillow. I mean, you're just nasty, right? And when you're 13, but by the time you're 17, you've got a record player and you've got, it's fancy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I do remember in the 1990s saving up my paycheck to buy stupid things like a pair of Skechers shoes or, saving up my money, my paycheck, and blowing it all on CDs, right? I mean, I've got like all my stacks of CDs. This is my paycheck from 1995 right here, dude. This is it. So, I mean, what'd you do this weekend? Oh, I went to the mall. What'd you get? I got Oasis, U2, Moby, Sheryl Crow. I wouldn't buy Sheryl Crow in the 90s, but Garbage, Duran Duran. I did like Duran Duran. Fatboy Slim. Oh, you get the yeah, dude. I got first Moby with Go on it, and I bought Prodigy CD, and I got Prince the Hits. Right, everybody had the hits, part 1 and part 2 in the 90s. Maybe I don't really want to know where you got and grow. Yes, of course. I even had everybody's forgotten Zootopia. I even had Zootopia, right? Lemon. Like forgotten U2 albums. Nobody remembers. I mean, I remember when Edge sang on that one song. Remember that? I mean, this is some forgotten lore here, man, from the 90s. I don't even remember that song, but MTV, yeah, this is it. Numb. I feel numb. MTV played the crap out of this stupid video in the 90s.
So you think...
It was like MTV's version of Hootie and the Blowfish on the radio. I mean, they played this song over and over and over. And I guess it was just supposed to be weird because Edge was singing and he never sings. He's just sitting there playing guitar or whatever. But he's got, you know, the Tim Pool toboggan on with a barcode. Man, that's so 90s. And goatees, right? For whatever reason in the 90s, dudes all wanted to wear goatees. I don't know why, who made that popular. I've always disliked this style of goatee. I can't stand it. I mean, this kind of thing, like a pirate, you know, Captain Jack Sparrow. Okay, I can do that. But this thing is just, it's just annoying. Like anybody that has that goatee, especially still, like, you know, that's a douchebag, dude. Just straight up. This is a bizarre, pointless video too. Nothing makes sense in it. It's just him staring, and then Bono comes over and starts licking on him and acting all weird. We should have known right here with this, right? Bono's a freaking creeper, just a goon, getting all up in his. Bono's trying to kiss him. What the heck are you doing, Boner? Get out of there, acting all Skittles. Like that right there, we should have been like, all right, Bono is just faking gray, dude. Let's get out of here, Boner. That should have been enough, right? But I don't know how to explain it. Nobody knew in the 90s that Bono was just such a goober, just a messianic minded, like thinking he's the savior of the world goofus. Like nobody knew that. You just thought, oh, it's just another, you know, rock band or whatever. And everybody liked U2 in the 90s, literally everybody. So just bizarre. Like what happened to that dude? Bono. There you go. Quintessential Gen X goober, right? Like worst of the Gen X. Bono. And what did Bono do? Capitalize on social justice activism for Africa and all this scammery and all this like fake aid money and all this kind of nonsense. I mean, he's like the archetype of the worst of the 90s Gen X social justice man. I mean, but I would say Eddie Vedder is probably up there, right? But I mean, Bono's like a few tiers worse above Eddie Vedder for sure.
One in the war to control the human mind.
What the heck?
Cycle CD-ROM action adventure.
Whoa, dude. Check out this. Check out gaming in the 90s right here. Burn Cycle. So, this is odd because in terms of gaming in the 90s was dominated by the systems, right? Nintendo, Sega. I don't know. I never knew anybody who was a computer gamer in the 90s. It existed, but if you were a computer gamer in the 90s, you were like some kind of savant genius. Like you were going to invent Bitcoin or something, because nobody played computer games. I mean, I can think of one dude, the dude in high school that played computer games was like the 200 IQ dude, literally. Ryan Swore, right? He played computer games. Nobody else played computer games. It's like, what's that dork shit? Computer games? Computer game? What? And it's odd because, well, I don't know what's bigger. I don't know if PlayStation but I would imagine for a time period, computer games probably eclipsed console. I don't know, but I've never heard of this. Burn Cycle? What the heck? These artifacts from the 90s are odd. They're fascinating.
A pawn in the war to control the human mind.
You're playing Burn Cycle,
CD-ROM action adventure game.
You experience
mind.
Oh, it's for Mac. Interesting.
Expanding extended gameplay.
You navigate fantastic 3D
What
worlds.
the heck?
The end game is a shocking conclusion. Use your brain or lose your mind.
That looks like some predictive programming stuff that might be interesting right there. I never even heard of that.
The CD-ROM action adventure game.
On sale in software stores now.
This never really took off. CD-ROM action adventure games. That never really became a big thing.
I can't do this anymore. I'm wasting my fast break. I got the moves and the shorts. Now I want the ring. I'm trying out for the NBA.
Start with the shorts.
I do have to admit, the NBA was really big in the 90s. I don't follow any of this sports ball crap, so I have no idea if it's still super big. I mean, I'm sure there's still NBA fans, but is it as big as the 90s? I don't even know. I mean, it was so big in the 90s. Here's an interesting thing that people forget, too. Anime. Nobody knew about anime in the 80s, like, at all. That wasn't a thing, right? But in the 90s is when it first started trickling into the West. And I remember one of the dudes at high school that was one of the weird kind of spurgy dudes at high school was the first guy I ever saw with anime. And I was like, how come it's backwards and the stuff is going? And he's like, because it's from Japan. And like, And then we had Ghost in the Shell. And everybody wanted to see Ghost in the Shell. That was the first kind of movie that you heard about. And that's actually, got some interesting predictive programming in it, right? But yeah, anime was becoming a thing in the 90s, which is odd. I wonder if MTV had a role probably in promoting some of that. I know that technically you could say Voltron is anime, but I'm saying in the 80s people just thought of that as a cartoon, right? You didn't think of that as a specific graphic novel that you were going to go buy, right? In the 80s, you just bought Batman and Spider-Man and X-Men. You didn't go buy freaking weird Japanese pictures. What is this? Oh, this is the movie that Jamie and I just watched. This is an odd 90s artifact, which I'd never seen. I'd never heard of this movie. There's one reason why this movie is very bizarre. It's a lesser-known dramedy from the Gen X time frame, with Timothy Hutton being this sort of, and I'm talking about this to you guys because we're not really going to cover Beautiful Girls in our Gen X stream. But anyway, he's an unsuccessful piano player in the city, so he goes home to visit and see, do I want to just move back home, right? I've been in the city, I'm middle-aged, my piano career is not going the way I thought. I don't know what he thought he would be playing. I mean, was there a huge market for piano players to make it big in the 90s? I don't think so, but so he decides, I'm not going to go home and just live, like I lived in high school with the bros. And he's hanging out with Michael Rappaport and all of his goofy high school buddies. And then he forms an odd attraction and crush on his underaged neighbor, played by Natalie Portman. And is she 13 or 14? Jamie? In Beautiful Girls, the Natalie Portman character. Was she like 14? Yeah, she's like 14, which is weird. So here you have this bizarre theme in this 90s movie about an underage, and it's not the whole plot of the movie, but it's a weird element of the movie, which didn't expect, right? I mean, because that's kind of stuff that, is being pushed now. And I don't know if I'd say this movie's promoting that, because Timothy Hutton doesn't end up with Natalie Portman. But, I mean, the message of the movie is that you need to live and act appropriate to your age, right? So if you're middle-aged and you're adult and you are in you should be in a married type of relationship, you probably shouldn't be trying to go back to being an adolescent. That's ultimately the meaning of the movie. But it's still odd that you have this illegal thing going on. I mean, they don't do anything, but they both have a crush on each other.
With another person to discover what's real.
You like that?
I go along with that.
And it's not funny either, brother. Remember Rosie O'Donnell? Ugh. But Donald Trump basically ended her, right? He crushed her with like a million one-liners and jabs. Does she even exist anymore? Like, is there still a thing called Rosie O'Donnell, or did she basically just melt from Donald Trump's comments? I don't know, but I had even forgotten that she was a thing in the 90s, right? She even had the Rosie O'Donnell show, which is weird.
Please, I can hang my
And no, she's not one bit funny. It's just total cringe.
coat on them.
By the way, Trump, in that regard, I guess we have to give Trump credit, because Trump was telling us like 20 years ago, Rosie O'Donnell's cringe. And people didn't even know. And now you look back and you watch something like this and you're like, she's not funny at all. She's dumb and gross, and it's just, what? How is this person successful? So Trump was right about this one, wasn't he? He was right about Rosie O'Donnell sucking a long time ago.
The friends you have.
You know, I knew I came back here for a reason.
Beautiful girls.
I don't even know what the point of that. Well, I would know what the point of the movie is, but just, I don't know, the underage thing.
And because you need a prescription
Rogaine.
to get Rogaine, we'll send you a list
Does
of
this still
doctors
exist?
and special money-saving offers to help you.
Which is odd, by the way, because how many bald people are watching MTV? I mean, if you're targeting the youth, I mean, the target market of MTV is not Rogaine, so this is
Decide
weird.
if Rogaine is right for you.
But I want to know right now.
We'll mail it to you today. So what are you waiting for? Call now.
Well, people don't know this, but nowadays, when you see Boomer TV networks, it's all pharmaceutical ads. So it didn't used to be that way. Used to, I think there was even for a while a law against pharmaceutical ads on TV. Anyway, that got dispensed with, and now, right, it's like all pharmaceutical ads is all there is. Total dystopia. But this is kind of like early. This is probably one of the earliest pharmaceutical ads on TV.
For your free information kit, call 1-800-442-1070.
This is 96, so this is right when we're starting to get, and there started to be Prozac ads around this time, because we're only about a year or two away from season 1 of Sopranos, which is one of the first TV shows to push Prozac.
We're not a mega dealership. We're not owned by some auto group.
Okay.
I'm there every day. Unfortunately, I'm there 420099.
And they were always pushing ITT, right? ITT Tech. Always trying to get people to go to some, I guess it's a trade school, which the people that went to ITT Tech probably did better than everybody else. I don't even know. But
graduate on time. Can't believe they're raising tuition. This is not working. But this will. Classes I need to graduate.
yeah, if Grandpa teaches me robots, I'll have a future. Which probably you did, right? These people probably went on to be the overlords of Silicon Valley, right? Whereas all the rest of us idiots went to college and studied liberal arts and have no jobs, right? Also, we already covered this the other night with Tristan. The 1990s is the explosion of the rap scene, right? I listened and was familiar with rap throughout the 80s as a kid. If you grew up in California, you heard and you liked rap music. By the 1990s, I liked it less because I was getting more mature coming into adulthood and not, it's just not my favorite genre. I've always still liked some rap songs here and there, sure, but Yo MTV Raps had a huge role in making Gen X accept rap. And even to this day, that's one big divide between Boomer and Gen X. There ain't no Boomer that likes rap unless they're like an old black dude, right? There's no Boomers that like rap. Just foreign to, they don't get it. Totally foreign. Gen X, because Gen X was raised with Yo MTV Raps. They started listening to rap. So this is a huge component. People don't even understand this, right? I grew up in the 80s watching Yo MTV Raps because I come home from school and Dr. Dre and Ed Lover would be on Yo MTV Raps. And that's a different Dr. Dre, by the way. So this is Big Fat Dr. Dre and Ed Lover. And they did Yo MTV Raps, right? And Yo MTV Raps continued from the 80s all the way into the 90s. It's pretty crazy.
This Saturday, MTV blasts out its fattest rap videos ever on the Yo Top 25.
So see, they're doing Yo MTV Raps Top 25 all the way up in the 1990s. That's crazy. What's this Demi Moore propaganda we're seeing here?
If I did serve for jury duty, would I be safe?
He was sent to persuade her.
Alec Baldwin's another, like, man, that dude was huge in the 90s. Alec Baldwin is a staple of the 90s, you could say. I mean, his face was everywhere.
I can do a scene. Not guilty. No, I think she's sexy. His assignment has become an obsession.
I don't even know what this movie is. Another one of these forgotten 90s artifact movies. No idea what this is. The Juror, never seen it.
Take your best shot at a career in video production.
What did I say?
At the Art Institute and develop your creative talent.
Going to art school.
Then just stick
Art school.
Take your best shot at a career.
See, they're telling the Gen X people, go to freaking film school, go to art school.
You're in video production. Study at the Art Institute and develop your creative talent in producing and directing, studio and live production, videography, lighting, audio for video, storyboarding, digital applications, and editing. Prepare for a challenging career in as little as 18 months.
Look at all that bullshit everywhere, and now it's like, now it's just on on a computer. It's all one device, all that crap everywhere.
Call the Art Institute now at 1-800-262-7283.
You notice how she's very psychedelic dressed there? People forget that in the 1990s, there was a return of the 60s aesthetic for whatever reason. That was very popular for a good bit of the 90s. It maybe around 92, 93, all the way up into maybe 95, 6, 60s aesthetic made a huge comeback. I don't know why. But at the same time too, a lot of psychedelia was also pushed in the Gen X culture as well. So they were pushing a lot of, continuing to do LSD. There were people who talked about and did shrooms, in the 90s and this kind of, but that's a lot bigger nowadays than it was in the 90s. I mean, there were some people who did that stuff, but drug-wise in the 1990s, it was like people talked about doing cocaine here and there. People talked about LSD more than any of the other drugs that I can think. I mean, obviously weed is most common, but it's even pre-pills. Like nowadays, pills. People are just pill, but like nobody was really doing pills in the 1990s. It wasn't. Maybe at a rave, somebody took a pill or something like that. But, we've interviewed Sean Atwood, who was one of these kind of early first pushers of ecstasy and pills in the late 90s with raves and stuff, right? So that didn't really hit the rest of the U.S. until much later. Like, I remember first hearing about raves in Memphis, maybe in the 90s, late 90s, right? So, anyway. Well, it looks like it's getting a little late. We've had a good almost 3 hours here. I want to remind everybody to head on over to right here, and hopefully some of you guys enjoy the stream. Even if you're not a Gen X or a millennial, hopefully you enjoyed the stream because you kind of see into the mindset of our Gen X overlords, and we got a few insights. Maybe we're gonna have fun when Jamie and I do next week our movie stream, Reality Bites and Mad Love and Empire Records, Before Sunrise. So those are going to be some choice Gen X alt coms that we've never covered here. But again, please head on over to the Eventbrite link to get tickets to our event here with Jamie Kennedy. It's going to be a lot of fun. Our last LA event was a blast. It was one of my most favorite, memorable live events that we've done. I mean, they've all been really fun, and they've really been unique in their own way. One thing that's odd about our live events, I've noticed, this will be about our 7th or 8th. It's always a different crowd at our live events, and that's a cool thing, right? Because it's like sometimes it's more of an orthodox crowd, sometimes it's more of a high IQ philosophy oriented crowd, sometimes it's more of a InfoWars related crowd, Alex fans. All of that's cool because it all overlaps. So it's going to be a fun 5-hour event. If you're wondering why it's $50, because it's a 5-hour event, because we do multiple lectures and we have a blast. It's like a party, basically. So come on out to our LA party. We might as well just call it LA party. Aaron sends $3. It says, Father Moses, he got this super chat in too late. I've noticed for a while now that there's one type of sin that is another specific sin, seems to go hand in hand with it. For example, sometimes sex, immorality, is accompanied by people doing blasphemy. What do you think? I can't speak for him, but I do think that you're right that sometimes certain sins will lead to other sins. But I don't know if there's always one specific sin that necessitates blasphemy or something like that. Usually what happens, and I think I've heard Father Moses say this, is that people that go kind of into weird sex issues, typically they will then eventually reflect that in their beliefs. So they eventually kind of tend to want to try to say, oh, but we need to change the church's teaching on this. It's like, interesting. Why would you want to do that? Maybe that's something that they don't want to deal with. Temple Hat Girl, $5. I didn't watch the live video with Father Moses, but it hit on many essential points. The emphasis of obedience and wisdom is dead on. These things stem from pride when we reject, listening to those who are wiser. Exactly. Thank you. Thank you so much. DC Woodworking, $3. Thank you so much, DC. Appreciate that. Constantine Minotaurama, $10. This is a great stream, Jay. I've been reading your Esoteric Hollywood books and Rachel's book, Occult Feminism. I need a better idea on esoteric and occult symbols so I can analyze other movies and pop culture in general. Can you recommend some books? Well, my wife Jamie has her book, which you can get in the shop at my website, Hollywood Mind Control. And she also has another book, Operation Culture Creation, which I don't have that over here, but Jamie's books would be a great addendum to your library. Ellie, $10. This is a great job. I've read your Esoteric Hollywood books. Great. They're great books. Thank you. Thank you so much, Ellie. Really appreciate that. I want to remind you guys, you can, if you do want to support the work, it's not just through Super Chats, but you can also get signed copies of our books, as you know, over in the shop at Jay's Analysis. The shop link is in the show description. It's in every show description. If you go over to Jay's Analysis, there's a little tab that says shop. Pop that open, and you've got Jamie's tallow in there, which she's really good at making. It's great for your skin. You've got my 2 books on Hollywood, which are there. Hopefully the Esoteric Hollywood 3 will be out this year. You've also got my Big Fat Red book. And since this year, 2024, right now, the newest book is the Big Fat Red book. I'll be pushing that one when we do our live shows this year in 2024. Of course, there will still be copies of meta narratives. If you don't want to get that big fat book, you want a more of an introductory book, you can get meta narratives book. All those books will be at the live events as well. So remember that when you come out to the live event, it's not just to hear us talking at you. It's also to, meet, ask questions, and you can, of course, you can bring questions about theology. You can bring your geopolitical questions. All of that will be, addressed, and that's why you have time to do all that at a long event like that. American Squidward, $1. This is an awesome stream, Jay. I love your content lately. Have you ever seen Tom Hanks' movie The Burbs? Absolutely. I grew up as a kid watching The Burbs. Seen it many times. It is actually, I'm not a Tom Hanks fan, but I actually do like that movie. And yeah, there's some weird stuff going on in that movie too, right? Because they kind of start thinking that the neighbors are Satanists and stuff. Of course, it's all misinterpreted, so that's the comedy element there. But yeah, it's a kind of an 80s classic. Appreciate that. DC Customs, again, $5. Do you remember the Columbia House 12 CDs for a penny thing? Scam? Oh, yeah. I mean, everybody did that. I never understood how it has to be a scam. I mean, all that kind of crap is some kind of scam. But I never understood how they made money from that. Maybe we should watch a documentary on the Columbia House CD scam. But everybody had those booklets, and then you sign up for it. You get all these free CDs, and then you're supposed to sign other people up, which I guess is like a CD Ponzi scheme or a multi-tiered marketing scheme. But how did they make money from that? Because nobody ever paid that shit. So I don't understand how they made money. DC Customs, $5. I never understood Eddie Vedder ever. By the way, head on over to chalk.com. We're working on these. We're getting there. I mean, we're not at Eddie Hall, Father Moses McPherson, Patrick David Harry levels over here, right? We're not at basketball arm levels. But I mean, what are we working with here with the chalk.com right now? This is, we're basically like double D cups, I guess. If my biceps were titties, they would be like double D's. You know what I mean? So we're doing good here. We're getting there. Head on over to chalk.com and use the Tomcat Ali. You could use that Tomcat Ali to boost your testosterone. Also, the Chad Mode pre-workout. Definitely something you want to check out. DC Custom says, what's the thing with Eddie Vedder? I mean, I remember buying Pearl Jam's first album, and I remember, for me, I never cared about any musician's political crap, dude. I always hated some musician trying to preach a bunch of political crap at me. That always got on my nerves. So I didn't have any interest in or care in Eddie Vedder's politics. I didn't realize that until later on. And the first thing that he did that was really political was his school shooting song, right? Jeremy spoken yesterday. And MTV, man, they promoted the crap out of that song. And I'm guessing that song was written because of Klebold and Columbine, right? But I mean, I don't even know what political crap Eddie Vedder was trying to. He's just grifting on that, I'm sure. That's got to be what's going on. I mean, like, what is he trying to? What's he gonna preach at us from that stupid song, right? Anyway, but so what I'm getting at is that after Jeremy, I didn't like Pearl Jam. The only song I really liked was Even Flow. And I don't even know why. I just thought that's the only Pearl Jam song I've ever liked. I don't even remember the rest of them, but I remember liking Even Flow. Even Flow. All right. Anyway, that's it. But yeah, Eddie Vedder quickly ran me off. Glitchy, $10. Gen Z thinks that you're part of the problem if you don't vote. Gen Z is all into voting. I didn't know that. Yeah, I don't know many Gen Z people. Maybe just through people that we talk to in the Discord. There's a lot of young people in the Discord, right? But I didn't know that. Interesting. I didn't know they were all about voting. That's weird. I mean, I come from, millennial and Gen X era, and no one cared about voting. That's why MTV is having to run all these